Our story starts at a class awakening ceremony in the year 2624. The first awakening is a life-changing event that shapes a person's future. The academy headmaster warns everyone not to change their class right away if they awaken to combat classes. Summoners and engineers require a lot of resources, something most people can't afford easily. Everyone's buzzing, eager to find out what class they'll get. Here's a bit of history. Years ago, a virtual reality game called Eternal took the world by storm. Because of a brand new experience and extreme euphoria from killing that allows people to lose themselves in the game, more and more people entered Eternal. One day, the world's surface expanded by thousands of times, with countless secret realm maps appearing. And suddenly, monsters and other races poured out. Eternal fused with the real world. Everyone could now level up and change their classes to increase their power and, of course, fight back against monsters. Our protagonist, Paul White, transmigrated into this world 1 year ago. His mother passed away when he was too young to remember. His sister Cindy, however, is now battling a strange illness that regular doctors can't cure. Paul's been scraping by, keeping her alive with the help of low-level priests. He had to sell his family home and rely on relatives for help. But it's only a temporary solution. If the cause of Cindy's illness isn't found, she'll stay on the edge of life and death. Medical expenses are climbing fast, and Paul's part-time jobs barely cover them. He must awaken a combat class to earn enough to get Cindy to a higher-level priest. The class awakening ceremony begins. A level 24 mage tells students whose numbers are called to step into the magic circle, one at a time. As the mage activates the circle, everyone around can't help but gasp at the power radiating from it. Some students whisper about how lucrative it must be to be a mage hosting the ceremony. The job likely brings in a six-figure income. Mr. Smith, who is a fifth-class homeroom teacher, calls on a student named Mike, announcing his turn. Mike raises his hand and steps up to the magic circle, officially kicking off the ceremony. Thousands of possible classes await. But in the class awakening ceremony, only 3 types of classes will appear. In a world overrun by monsters, combat classes are the most revered. Life-type classes, on the other hand, have the lowest status. Unfortunately, Mike doesn't get a single combat class. Previous year's statistics show that about half of the students should awaken to combat classes. Among them, enchanters have the highest potential. Finally, Mr. Smith calls Paul's name. People are whispering, saying the class representative has great stats in academics, so he'll likely get an impressive class. Mr. Bell, who is the 6th-class homeroom teacher, tells that only 16 his students awaken combat classes. Another teacher chuckles, saying his class already has 21 students with combat classes, including a rare one. But they instantly stop talking as they notice that Paul isn't moving for some reason. Then, out of nowhere, Paul's necklace begins to glow, radiating power and light as a system activates. The strongest class support system kicks in, offering him a rookie starter gift and the S+ grade talent, Protection of the Sacred Angel. The system asks if Paul wants to accept the gift. He rubs his eyes in disbelief, but quickly realizes it's real. He bought this necklace in his previous life from a street vendor, and it's been with him since his transmigration. He had suspected it might be valuable, but after a few tests, nothing had happened. So he gave up on the idea. But now the system has activated, giving him a huge advantage right when he needs it most. In this world, talents range from F to S grade, with higher grades offering better effects. Most importantly, the 3 classes that appear during the awakening ceremony are closely linked to a person's talents. Teachers and students are confused as to why Paul seems zoned out, with some even assuming he failed to awaken a class. Suddenly, a golden ray of light beams down from the sky onto the circle. All the priests and mages recognize it as a talent awakening phenomenon. A beautiful sacred angel descends from the sky with light embodying Paul's faith and power source. With this belief, the sacred light will forever protect him and banish evil. The angel will always be by his side, marking him with a special golden seal on his forehead. 3 unique classes, ones no one has ever seen before, appear before Paul. People around him are in awe and jealousy, wondering what classes these could be. It turns out that these are hidden classes: Mage of Light, Sacred Priest, and Saint Knight. Paul now has a life-altering choice to make. Mage of Light is a pure DPS class. It has powerful attacks but lacks defense skills, making it vulnerable in a world full of dangerous creatures. Priests have plenty of life-saving abilities and the unique power of resurrection. but they lack combat strength and rely heavily on allies. The Saint Knight is a balanced class with a well-rounded skill set, capable of offense, defense, and support. Though it doesn't specialize in any one area, Paul's talent for light affinity makes the Saint Knight the perfect fit, so the choice is made. The knight raises a hammer and speaks words like humility, honesty, bravery, empathy, and responsibility. From this moment, these virtues become Paul's guide to pursue justice and live honorably. And with this transformative awakening, the system congratulates him on achieving the Saint Knight class. Right after this, Paul becomes an instant star. Most of the students want to team up with him, but suddenly a teacher pushes everyone aside and approaches him. The teacher's face looks almost frantic. He tells Paul to go home, rest up, and come to the headmaster's office tomorrow. Not only have Paul's stats increased after awakening, but he also has unassigned stat points. Strength is his top priority, with Constitution next. Only with enough power can he take down monsters more efficiently. So he uses the unassigned stat points to boost these parameters. Paul feels energy boiling within him. It's an incredible feeling. Since this is his first time using stat points, the Saint Knight mission activates. It's that classic trope where the character completes missions to earn rewards. The prize is too good to pass up. A trial ground is randomly assigned to match Paul's level. The system warns him to take the trial seriously because dying there means dying in real life. The next thing Paul knows, he's inside a mine. He remembers learning in class that ancient tabby monsters mainly live in mines. While they aren't carnivorous, they'll become violent and bloodthirsty like other monsters when they spot a human. With low intelligence, these monsters attack by roaring and slashing with claws sharp enough to cut through minerals. One of them lunges at Paul, but he dodges just in time. This is his first real fight against a monster, and he decides to try taking it down without using a skill. Thanks to his boosted stats, Paul is much more agile, and his jumping power has improved too. The hero laughs at the monster, saying he is so slow that our character can see his attack from a mile away, just as the beast stabs him with a claw. Paul's bleeding. He got too cocky. No matter how much he trained at the academy, real monsters are different. Even if it's a low-level monster, he can't underestimate it. Slowly, he recovers with the help of a regeneration skill. Now it's time to fight back. He uses the blade of pure white, slashing in a cross shape. Then he follows up with a tiger pounce, throwing the monster and dealing multi-stage damage. Paul lands a solid hit to the creature's stomach, sending it flying. A few final strikes, and he takes down the ancient tabby monster. His score, A. Now it's time to choose his rewards. Stat points and skill points are the foundation of an A-class strength. He's in no rush to level up his skills, so he picks extra stat points. A solid weapon would also come in handy for the next trials. Paul chooses stat points and random equipment. His reward is a basic one-handed sword. Time to leave the trial grounds. On his way back to his room, he receives a message from Cindy, asking him to come to the hospital. She saw the news about a student triggering the descent of a sacred angel during their class awakening. It's the first hidden class to appear in the city in 50 years. But just then, a nurse enters Cindy's room and switches off the TV. With a sneer, the nurse tells Cindy it's time for her to pay her medical fees, $10,000. She doesn't understand why it's so expensive now, as it used to be $5,000. She asks if there's been a mistake. Paul barely makes $5,000 working 3 jobs a month. The nurse snaps that Cindy has used a lot of medicine this month, including suppressants and stabilizers, and they even had to call in a priest. Outraged by Cindy's questioning, the nurse scolds her, saying a young lady shouldn't speak so disrespectfully. She offers to let Cindy check the bill herself. With a cruel smile, she says that poor people should just accept their fate instead of fighting it. But suddenly a man interrupts her. Apparently he overheard her insulting patients. With her sharp tongue, he wonders if the nurse will keep talking like that in the director's office. The nurse huffs and leaves the room, warning that Cindy's medical fees must be paid today. Cindy is nervous, asking who this man is. John Wilson shows his ID and tells her he's a friend of her big brother. Paul rushes into his sister's ward, telling her he just paid the bills. The hospital system now shows they have 10,000 yuan in their account. He's surprised as he walks in and sees 2 men already in Cindy's room. John introduces himself as the mayor's secretary and says he'd like to discuss a few things with Paul. The mayor's the most powerful person in the city, and his secretary can sometimes represent him directly. Paul can't imagine why someone so important is looking for him. They shake hands, and Paul suggests they talk somewhere else, since Cindy's hospital room isn't the best place for a conversation. John tells his colleague to stay with Miss White while he and Paul step out for a moment. At the cafe, everyone's buzzing about the hidden class that showed up at the second academy. People are even gossiping that Paul White is pretty good looking. John and Paul sit down at a table. John congratulates him on his awakening, but Paul brushes it off, saying he just got lucky. John disagrees. Getting an S-grade talent isn't just luck. The mayor is interested in Paul. He's even set aside cultivation resources for him to use for the upcoming exam and gives Paul the only key to the bank vault holding them. Looks like the mayor sees potential in Paul and figures it's worth investing in him, but he probably hopes Paul will repay the favor someday. John also informs him that a professional medical team will be available to care for Cindy around the clock from now on. On top of that, the mayor has arranged for a level 36 second-grade priest to come and treat her. Paul knows he has no choice but to accept this. The hero tells Cindy everything. She's thrilled, joking that maybe she can cling to him like a good luck charm now that he's on the rise. Paul tells her to stop being silly and focus on her recovery. Cindy, curious about his new class, asks about his exclusive skills. Since awakening as a Saint Knight, Paul has 3 exclusive skills: Blade of Pure White for attack, Slow Recovery for healing, and Weapon Blessing for support. Slow Recovery can recover life points, so the hero decides to try it on his sister. Cindy sighs, saying it's so comforting, like being in a hot spring or getting a full-body massage. She exclaims that the pain is gone, and even her hands feel warm again. She cheers, calling him amazing. Besides strength, one big reason Paul chose the Saint Knight class was because of Cindy's illness, since the class has support abilities that can ease her pain. The next day, Paul goes to the academy. A few dozen universities called the headmaster Mr. Clark to recruit the hero. Even 4 teachers from the top 10 universities showed up. All of these teachers are holders of secondary awakened classes at level 35 or above. If Paul joins them, he'll get top-notch training. Paul's surprised the top 3 universities aren't among them. Mr. Clark explains that the top 3 only recruit based on exam results. They don't care about talent or class, nor do they have special admissions. As they approach the classroom, the teachers are deep in a debate over who has the best offer. The headmaster opens the door and announces that Paul White is here. Mr. Clark introduces them. First is Mr. Stephen Adams from Rongyang University, followed by Mr. Stuart Lewis from Chuan Nan University. Also present are Miss Catherine Evans and Mr. Elijah Bell, representing Hancheng and NG universities. Paul bows as he greets them, and the teachers notice he doesn't carry any arrogance despite his hidden class. He seems humble and steady, a good kid. Mr. Adams cuts to the chase, explaining Rongyang University's offer. If Paul chooses them, they'll give him 2 million yuan and 3 Saint Knight exclusive skill books. Paul is stunned. Most families only make about 6,000 yuan a month. And Saint Knight exclusive skill books? Ordinary people never even get to see them. Not even the mayor gave him resources on this level. Mr. Lewis speaks up, saying Chuanan University is offering 3 million yuan upfront, 3 skill books per year, and training with a level 56 tertiary awakened knight. A level 56 knight, that's almost top tier. Becoming their student would open up huge opportunities. But then Miss Evans says everyone else isn't being sincere enough. Hancheng University doesn't have a huge admission fund. They're offering just 2 million yuan. But if Paul joins them, she'll give him a B-class cultivation resource immediately. Mr. Clark is practically salivating at the offer. B-class cultivation resources are priceless treasures. Catherine asks what Paul thinks. He apologizes, saying he's decided to decline special admission. Everyone, including Mr. Clark, is shocked. Paul explains that he wants to aim for the top 3 universities. Among the top 10, the top 3 are Sukong, Qingjing, and Modu. These 3 are the most prestigious universities. They only accept about 1,000 students each year, and it's not limited to humans. Elves, giants, and other races can apply too. Other races are naturally stronger than humans, and with all the elites in the country, getting into these universities is as hard as scaling a mountain. Mr. Adams laughs, saying he thought Paul was a good kid, but now he sees he's just an ignorant brat. Stefan read his profile. Paul lost too much in his first 18 years and lacked the resources to fill them up. Mr. Adams says the hero's weak and has low stats. A powerful aura radiates from Mr. Adams. Anyone else in Paul's place would have knelt instantly. The man says it's not only tough for Paul to get into the top 3 universities, but even if he does make it, he'll be at the bottom. And without focused training, that's all he'll ever be. Mr. Clark steps in, telling Mr. Adams not to bully his student. Miss Evans notices that Paul can withstand Mr. Adams' aura for more than a few breaths. She admits this kid really is extraordinary. Mr. Adams sneers, saying that a student's attitude is just as important as potential. With Paul's attitude, he'll never amount to anything. The other teachers also decide to leave since Paul has such high ambitions. Mr. Clark tries to stop them, but Paul doesn't mind. Catherine tells him he's brave, but the other teachers have a point too. She warns him that there are countless elites out there and other races are naturally stronger than humans. Getting into the top 3 universities is almost impossible. But Paul's confident he'll prove his strength in the upcoming exams. There's 1 month left, so he's determined to use his system to raise his strength to an insane level. He's set on making it into the top 3. Catherine hasn't seen eyes this determined in a long time. It takes her back to her days on the front lines. As she leaves, she tells him she'll be looking forward to his results. A month flies by. Exam day is here, and all the students gather at the stadium. Their examiner is the notorious Yang, so they're nervous. Students are whispering about Paul, who turned down special admission for a shot at the top 3. They think he's too arrogant and predict he'll end up with nothing. Suddenly, Paul steps into the crowd and everyone goes silent. He's different now. The hero feels powerful. The opening map is set deep in a dark forest. The cat monsters there are incredibly agile, while the minotaurs have thick, tough skin. The maximum number of allowed party members reflects the map's difficulty. In past exams, it was usually 3, but this time it's 5. Mr. Yang instructs everyone to act within their abilities. If they encounter any life-threatening danger in the secret realm, they must immediately use a return scroll. Dying in the map means dying in real life. Time's up and the students are ready to enter the map. As expected from elite classes like the first one, everyone but 2 parties goes in solo. Paul's solo too, but he's from the 5th class. Going solo means you get all the experience and a higher score on the exam, but the risk of death also increases. Only elite seniors usually dare to try that. Other students in the stadium are watching Paul. They're stunned to learn he's attempting the nightmare difficulty level on his own. Sean Wesley, the director of education, shouts that a Saint Knight has extraordinary support skills, so Paul would be an ace in any party. Mr. Wesley demands to know why Paul went solo and chose the nightmare difficulty with a 40% death rate. The director tells Mr. Clark that the city council has invested heavily in Paul this month to help him achieve good results. If Paul dies in the map, the city government's reputation will take a serious hit. Mr. Wesley says Paul's decision to go solo is like ignoring the government's support. The headmaster assures him not to worry, saying Paul must have a hidden advantage. Meanwhile, Paul pulls out a single-bladed axe. A monster approaches at that moment, perfect timing. So Paul swings the axe, instantly killing the beast. His stats increase. In just a month, Paul has reached level 10, but his average stats have skyrocketed to an impressive 47, matching a level 13. Other monsters lurk in the bushes. Paul approaches them since they're not attacking. He uses Weapon Blessing, which boosts his attack power and accuracy. Under the effect of his S+ grade talent, Protection of the Sacred Angel, the Saint Knight's exclusive skill, Weapon Blessing, is enhanced as well. Other students must envy him for such a powerful buff. The university exam limits weapons to 3-star bronze, but with his buff, Paul's axe has the impact of a 5-star bronze weapon. His stats set him far ahead of everyone else in the exam. A few monsters sneak up behind him, but it's no trouble for him. The students murmur that Paul's timing is flawless. He used Blade of Pure White at the exact moment he was attacked. Paul's leveled up Blade of Pure White to level 5, giving it a radiant light and powerful elemental damage. With the Sacred Angel's buff, he can instantly kill any low-level monster. The students are in awe. That single-bladed axe is heavy, but Paul wields it like it's a toy. The first-class teacher interrupts, remarking that Paul's speed is even faster than the cat monsters. Not only his speed, but Paul's magic is quick and powerful too. His intelligence stat must be high. His attack angles, control, strength. It's as if Paul's a combat prodigy. The first-class teacher wonders how a talent like this ended up in Class 5. Mr. Wesley comments that while Paul has a strong combat mindset, his tactics are unwise. He's already wasted too much stamina on the first wave of cat monsters. Nightmare difficulty has not only powerful monsters, but a large number of them. Even top-tier mages struggle due to magic energy consumption. The weight of the axe is a significant drawback. Swinging it once or twice is fine, but hundreds of swings? Mr. Wesley predicts Paul won't even have the strength to hold the axe soon and will end up getting shredded by the cat monsters. The next wave is here already. The cat monsters aren't giving Paul a moment to breathe. This is brutal. There are at least 100 cat monsters. The onlookers wonder if Paul can pull it off this time, but with just one swing, he clears out most of them. Finally, he lands the last hit on the final cat monster. The entrance to the next level opens. Paul advances to the next stage where even more monsters await him. One guy is live streaming for his followers, talking about Paul White, the most popular top student at the Second Academy. He shows how our hero cleared the first wave of the Nightmare map with insane efficiency, in just 3 minutes and 17 seconds. That's 29 seconds faster than last year's top scorer. Paul kept swinging and slashing, and afterward he was barely even winded. A girl named Nancy remembers how Director Wesley said it was unwise to waste stamina on the first wave, but it seems not everyone's buying that. The fifth-class teacher tells Nancy that Mr. Wesley wouldn't lie to them, though he can't help but smile with pride for Paul. The hero entered the next stage. The monsters now are minotaurs, plus 3 types of cat monsters. There are warrior-type cat monsters, light cat monsters acting as healers, dark cat monsters as mages, and the silver-grade minotaur that deals massive damage. Warrior, healer, and mage. A classic setup. If the first stage was just scattered bandits, the second is a squad of trained soldiers. The risk of death is way up. Suddenly, Paul gets cursed by a cat monster. Everyone is shocked, saying he's in real danger. Warriors are charging, mages casting buffs, and healers working their magic. The hero admits these monsters actually have decent teamwork. But Paul knows exactly what to do. He activates the Cross of Sacred Light. With this move, he scorches every monster around him. The skill summons Sacred Light to form a cross behind him, dealing continuous light element fire damage. Mr. Wesley shouts that it's a grade 8 AoE skill. Skills, like talents, are ranked in 7 grades. The higher the grade, the stronger the effect and the harder it is to obtain. The director knows that the resources the government gave Paul could only get him a grade C skill at best, so it's a mystery how he's using a grade B skill. Now the only monster left is the Minotaur, which has entered Berserk mode. Its special move is War Stomp. Plus, with its superior body effect, nothing can stop the Minotaur's charge. But Paul counters with air slash, blocking its advance. Then he finishes with a strike from the Blade of Pure Light. The Minotaur collapses, but Paul notices it's still breathing, so he slams it in the face with his foot. The door opens. The next stage must be the boss room. Everyone's thrilled, stunned that Paul took down a 4-meter-tall Berserk Minotaur with one blow. The second stage only took him 59 seconds. Mr. Wesley's impressed, saying Paul has perfect timing for his skills and an absolute control towards his strength. The director congratulates Mr. Clark, saying the Second Academy will finally produce a renowned student. It's time for their academy to have an elite. Since the school's founding, the Second Academy's top performer has only reached 721st place in the district rankings. Paul might take them to new heights. Suddenly, a student asks why Senior Paul didn't rest before entering the boss room. Mr. Wesley is outraged, saying that if Paul loses his advantage because he didn't recover properly, it'll be a huge setback. Sukang District is a densely populated, talent-rich area, and anyone aiming for the top 100 attempts the nightmare difficulty solo. Under the same difficulty, to be the top performer, you have to finish in the shortest time possible. Paul finally faces the Minotaur King. The boss finds it ridiculous that a human dares to set foot in his palace. But then all of Paul's buffs activate. Blessing of Dawn, Gift of Courage, Gift of Protection, triggering the Saint Knight's initial form. Now it's the Minotaur King who should fear for his life. But even with 4 buffs, his axe can't pierce the monster's flesh. The Minotaur King slams Paul with a hammer, sending him flying. Luckily, the Saint Knight armor protects him. Without it, his bones would be shattered. Good thing the hero knows what to do after that exchange. He didn't take the hit for nothing. Now he'll use the Spear of Victory. Countless spears made of condensed divine light rain down on the enemy. But the Minotaur King blocks every attack. This monster's strong. It's above Paul in strength and resilience, so overpowering it isn't an option. Most people would try to wear it down over time, but that would cost him any chance at first place. Examiners rarely set up dead ends, so there must be another way. Paul noticed that the Minotaur King's agility was lower than his during their clash. Attacking it rapidly from multiple angles will put it in a tough spot. The system alerts him that his mana is low. Besides agility, the Minotaur King has another weakness: its resistance. It has high endurance and health, but it's also more vulnerable to high damage and negative effects when attacked. Paul needs to unleash multiple powerful skills in a short time. This is his chance, but he has to time every skill release precisely. Otherwise, he'll fail the exam by running out of mana before defeating the monster. Paul didn't want to make a big move, but he has no choice. There's no time, so he draws his sword and slashes the Minotaur King. The system congratulates him on completing the Nightmare difficulty dungeon. His college entrance exam is officially complete. Paul's performance is graded SSS, earning him first place for clearing the map. He's thrilled. He'll be Sukang District's top student. In the year he transmigrated over, his mother passed away, his sister got sick, debts piled up, and Cindy's medical bills loomed over him. But even under such harsh conditions, he didn't choose to give up. When he couldn't increase his stats, he practiced combat skills and strengthened his fighting spirit. The system gave him a second chance, but he knows his fate is still in his hands. Paul has to work harder than anyone and seize that chance. His heart stays steady, unshakable. Now it's time to head back. As a reward, Paul receives the Forest Belt, which boosts his stats and grants buffs while fighting in the forest. Along with the belt, he gets the Forest Ring with similar effects. Paul returns to the stadium. The crowd cheers for him, calling him their hero. Someone approaches him. Mr. Wesley and Mr. Clark congratulate him, saying that solo clearing Nightmare difficulty in under 10 minutes is an unprecedented honor for the Academy. From the director's years of exam research, he believes Paul has what it takes to reach first place in the district. Suddenly, a car speeds into the venue. It's a magical vehicle that can fly, a rare and expensive item. It turns out to be the director's car. He says exam results will be released in 3 days and promises to inform Paul right away. After their last conversation, John Wilson quickly fulfilled his promise. Cindy was moved to a deluxe suite in the hospital with a professional team monitoring her. Paul heads to the hospital to visit his sister and share some good news. But as he and a nurse get in the elevator, the air suddenly turns freezing. When they reach the 26th floor, they find ice spreading everywhere. Everything is frozen: walls, floors, even people. Paul immediately rushes to his sister. The nurse tries to stop him, but freezes instantly. In Cindy's room, Paul comes face to face with a woman casting magic on her. The hero prepares to strike, but the woman stops him. Moving her, he recognizes Sister Leah. Leah warns him that if they attack recklessly, it could shatter Cindy's heart. Also, Paul asks why a dragon is here. Leah explains that Cindy's cold-based illness flared up, freezing everyone around her into ice. Right now, the best she can do is keep the cold contained to this floor, so she urges Paul to leave quickly. The hero is deeply worried about his sister. Leah tells him that without a high-level priest, this is all she can manage. So Paul asks the system to use all his skill points to upgrade his slow recovery ability. His skill transforms into slow regeneration, and he activates it immediately. Leah is astonished by the power of the Saint Knight's healing skill. It surpasses even the effects a level 23 priest like her could achieve. Paul tells her that he'll handle things here, but she should go inform Secretary John and ask him to summon a high-level priest as soon as possible. Leah hesitates, saying the priest's schedule is packed. John's appointment with her isn't until next week. Even if they call her now, she won't make it in time. Paul insists, telling Leah to just tell John everything. If he can get a high-level priest here, the hero promises to do one thing for him: no questions asked. In the future, Leah leaves right away. This burst of cold isn't new. Cindy has suffered from it every night for the past year. Under the influence of the cold aura, she would suffer intense pain across her body. Paul knew that the cold was getting more severe recently, but he didn't realize it had become severe enough to affect others. The cold is biting into Paul now, too. Then, suddenly, a green light fills the room, cutting through the dragon's icy presence. The light wraps around Cindy. Paul shouts, telling it not to touch her, but he's immediately thrown back. A woman steps forward, commanding the dragon to back down. It seems everything is under control now, and Cindy is safe. The woman recognizes Paul and tells him she's heard about him. Her name is Riley Davis, a level 35 secondary awakened priest from the city. John specifically asked her to treat Cindy ahead of schedule. If John hadn't mentioned that Paul might take the top spot in his class, she wouldn't have bent the rules. She's impressed with how long Paul has withstood the cold. The hero anxiously asks if his sister's condition is curable. Riley explains that the leakage of cold energy and its solidification into form is a sign of bloodline awakening. When the Eternal Game first appeared, many players chose characters from other races, elves, giants, demons, and so on. When the game merged with reality, those players inherited the traits of these bloodlines. For instance, those with elven blood have greener eyes and longer ears. Over the past 200 years, descendants of those players who married humans gradually lost those traits and powers as their bloodlines diluted, except for one rare condition, bloodline awakening. Riley says this can bring great fortune or grave misfortune. A successful awakening lets the person control another race's power, but failure results in paralysis or death. Cindy's suffering is due to her body's struggle to handle the power of this bloodline. If Riley is correct, Cindy has awakened a rare freezing bloodline. She needs a change in her constitution to carry such a unique power. As far as Riley knows, only a treasure as the freezing lotus can change a human's constitution. But this thing is extremely rare. The last time it appeared at an auction 30 years ago. Another option is to use a powerful sealing skill to contain the bloodline. However, this would mean Cindy could never level up again. Riley advises Paul to contact her once he makes a decision. 5 days later, the hero completes a daily mission and chooses stat points as his reward. He chooses it most of the time. He usually goes for constitution and intelligence, essential for a Saint Knight, but he can't ignore the other stats either. He follows the 2-3-3-2 method, distributing points across 4 stats. Suddenly, the results of an exam are announced. Paul has earned first place. As rewards, he receives various divine skills and items. News across the country buzzes about Paul's awakening ceremony, which triggered a divine phenomenon, a clear sign marking him as number 1. Director Wesley tells reporters he always knew Paul would succeed, which is why he advised the government to increase their investment in him. People everywhere are gossiping. They're stunned as a Saint Knight is a support class, and it usually takes ages to clear a realm solo. Some speculate that Paul must have cheated. A level 10 solo clearing a nightmare realm seems impossible. But there are recordings from the exam. It feels like Paul's Holy Cross is stronger than high-tier fire magic. Besides that, people have lost count of how many buffs he has. A red-haired guy, the previous champion, watches Paul's performance intently. He mutters that Paul might be interesting, but daring to take his honor is courting death. Walking down the street, the hero receives a message. The city government has just transferred money into his account. He immediately calls Secretary John. The man explains that after Paul's brilliant exam performance, the government is rewarding him with $5 million in cash and a luxurious mansion. Seems like they've acknowledged his top ranking too. Paul lets John choose the location for the mansion. John mentions hearing that recruitment teachers from the top 3 universities are on their way and asks if Paul needs a ride. But it turns out they're already here. A recruitment teacher from Rongyang University approaches Paul, while another steps down from a helicopter, remarking that he remembers Rongyang calling Paul too arrogant. The Rongyang teacher responds that Mr. Adams couldn't see the truth and has been fired. If Paul joins Rongyang, he'll receive $4 million. The teacher from the helicopter declares that Modu University will double whatever Rongyang offers Paul. A woman strides up, declaring she'll be the one taking Paul. As she leads him away, she mentions that Qingjing University has nothing but cultivation resources. And for 4 years, Paul will receive grade A resources annually. But before they can discuss further, they slam into a barrier. Another woman appears, saying Sukong University can match Qingjing's offer and demands that Paul be put down. Meanwhile, the Modu teacher adds that their university will provide a full set of golden grade equipment every year too. The Qingjing teacher insists she wasn't kidnapping, she was merely trying to have a private chat with Mr. Paul White. She asks him to make his choice. Grace Bennett, the Sukang recruiter, announces that Paul can even get grade S resources at Sukang. which has held first place in the last 4 contests. The Qingjing teacher snaps, accusing Grace of getting arrogant over a few competition wins. The offers from all 3 universities are tempting, and any of them could lead Paul to a bright future. If he wants to grow even stronger, Su Kang is clearly the best match, so he decides to go with them. Grace beams and presents Su Kang's special recruitment contract, encouraging him to sign if he's ready. The other teachers remind Paul he's welcome to visit their universities anytime if he ever wants a change from Su Kang. Curious, Paul asks Grace about her level. She's a level 42, second awakening mage, though she doesn't look 30. Grace says he'll meet plenty of other young powerhouses soon. Since receiving his system, Paul knows he has no rivals his age. Once at Su Kang, he'll surely find worthy opponents and grow stronger fast. Grace can sense his fierce fighting spirit. Finally, the contract is signed. She tells him to take a week to pack. After that, she'll take him to the university. Paul's surprised that Su Kang's semester starts so early. Grace explains that special recruits receive high-level training right away, which speeds up their growth. Secretary John takes Paul and Cindy to see their new mansion. This is the government-gifted mansion. It has 3 floors, complete with a training room, leisure area, and a big balcony. Mr. Wilson says he won't intrude further, but Paul has a request. Cindy is still recovering. Her body remains weak. Although Sister Leah will stay with her, Paul asks John to watch over Cindy for a while. Paul says goodbye to Cindy, reminding her to call if she needs anything and to take the priestess's pills every week. John will arrange for Cindy to start school in a few days. Cindy playfully covers her ears, mocking him. Paul hops into Grace's car. It's his first time traveling a long distance. She warns him to hold on. In a split second, they're zooming at astronomical speed, teleporting. Moments later, they arrive at the university along with other cars. Paul remarks that there was no rush, so was teleportation magic really necessary? Major universities are usually under military jurisdiction. Priestess Riley must have requested permission from the city government to use a miniature teleportation array. Grace explains that Su Kang works closely with the military, so they've built a large teleportation array nearby. It's safe and convenient. And here they are. The university is vast, surrounded by mountains with breathtaking scenery. As Grace leads Paul to check in, he suddenly notices a guy being tossed aside. The culprit is a white-haired girl, Evelyn, who tells the guy she doesn't want to talk to him. Her kick serves as a warning. If he bothers her again, she won't go easy on him. This time, young Master Jacob has crossed the wrong person. He has a reputation for hitting on new students every semester, but now he's finally met his match. Paul observes magical patterns on Evelyn, realizing she has a demonic bloodline. Grace explains that many students and teachers in University City possess different bloodlines, advising Paul not to be too surprised when he encounters them. Paul responds that as long as they stand with humanity, he has no reason to treat them as enemies. He won't blame the entire demon race for his father's death. Grace hands him his student ID. The ID contains details like his rank and score. Grace begins to explain the school's structure. Each year has its own ranking system. The stronger the student, the higher their rank. Paul is currently ranked number 001, the top position, but this is only temporary. In a month, there will be a freshman competition to rearrange ranks based on performance. Starting today, Paul will be everyone's target. Everyone will aim for his spot, but Paul, already in first place, has no intention of giving it up. Grace then explains the score system. Freshmen receive scores based on their rank, which can be used to purchase food, equipment, potions, skill books, and more. With enough scores, Paul can acquire anything he desires, including S-class skills and resources. There are 2 other ways to earn scores besides rank. The first method is through score missions, which Paul can access by logging into the mission board with his ID card. Completing these missions rewards students with scores. The second method is through the Heaven and Earth rankings, where students receive a set number of scores based on their position. With 5,000 students at Su Kang, many compete fiercely to make it into these rankings. Paul knows he can't afford to be complacent. Additionally, the university has 3 realms. The first is the Goblin Dungeon, with entry levels ranging from 17 to 21. The second is the Distorted Forest, requiring entry levels of 23 to 26. The third is Purgatory, with entry levels of 28 to 31. Apart from level requirements, Paul will need to spend scores to enter these realms. He can also use the training room to level up either by battling robots or sparring with real opponents. At Su Kong, strength determines authority, granting access to the best resources. Paul likes this system. As he and Grace pass a group of students, he notices their curious stares. They're wondering about this new student, especially since a teacher is personally guiding him. Most of them were shown around in groups of 10 by seniors. One student, Mike, explains that special recruits are assigned specific teachers to help them acclimate faster and encourage them to join certain houses. The group quickly realizes this must be this term's first-place student. They ask Su Kong's informant for more information. Soon they learn it's Paul White, Su Kong's top student and a level 13 Saint Knight. The news shocks them, including the white-haired girl. They find it hard to believe that a Saint Knight, a support class, could outperform rank 002 Jeremy Morgan, a level 14 berserker. Mike questions why they doubt the informant if his title is to be trusted. The white-haired girl seems impressed. Suddenly, a student steps forward, claiming Paul's first-place rank is fake. He introduces himself as Sean Hughes, a level 13 punishment knight ranked 038. Sean suspects that Paul doesn't have enough strength to be appraised as 001 and now is challenging him. Another student tries to intervene, pointing out that duels are personal matters and not worth everyone's attention. Sean shoves the senior aside, insisting he's serious. Ranking 001 is determined by the headmaster and 5 house teachers. It can't be a mistake. The crowd whispers that Sean is using Paul's rank as a stepping stone, which they find understandable since the Saint Knight class isn't known for its strength. Paul, with a faint smile, asks why he should accept Sean's challenge. Sean offers 100 points if Paul wins, adding that Paul risks nothing by accepting. Paul realizes that accepting could set a precedent, but to make a real impression, he'll need to be decisive. To ensure they remember him, Paul raises the stakes. He'll fight Sean for 300 points. Sean suddenly hesitates. The wager is substantial. 300 points is a significant portion of Sean's total. Paul declares he'll walk away if Sean doesn't have the courage to accept. At the last moment, Sean agrees and suggests heading to the ring. Paul smirks, stating there's no need for a ring. If Sean doesn't fall to his knees within 3 moves, Paul will consider it his loss. The battle is about to begin. Grace counts down from 3, signaling the boys to start. Lethal moves are strictly forbidden. The fight begins. The Punishment Knight and Saint Knight, both hidden classes branching from the Knight class, are pitted against each other. The Punishment Knight specializes in dealing damage, while the Saint Knight excels in support. Sean feels confident, believing he can win by striking swiftly before Paul is fully buffed. He hopes to impress Evelyn watching the match. Determined to secure victory, Sean unleashes a blood slash, only to miss his target. Paul, much faster, counters with a powerful kick that sends Sean flying. Sean drops to his knees, bleeding profusely. The fight is over in a shockingly disappointing fashion. Paul expected Sean to have some tricks up his sleeve, but concludes that Sean can't even withstand a single blow. A senior approaches Teacher Grace, reporting that Sean has 5 broken ribs and internal bleeding before collapsing unconscious. Grace orders him to get a priest for healing. Grace announces that 300 points have been credited to Paul's student card. The students are awestruck, realizing the hero blocked both the Punishment Knight's charge and a blood slash. This must be the legendary power of 001. Evelyn speculates that Paul has at least a 20-point strength advantage over Sean. She approaches Paul and asks if he'll spar with her. Paul realizes he hadn't noticed before that the girl not only carries other bloodlines, but also wields legacy equipment. This is Paul's first encounter with such gear, and he's eager to test its capabilities. He decides to fight using the Mystic Light Warhammer, channeling all his light elemental abilities. Even as freshmen, fights are breaking out on the first day. Joseph Green, a level 29 spearman and captain of the Aurora Club, arrives on the scene. The battle begins with Evelyn initiating a shadow slash, charging at our hero with incredible speed. Paul counters with Typhoon Smash, raising his hammer and delivering a powerful swing that knocks the girl back. Both fighters display remarkable strength, proving they are evenly matched. Recognizing Paul's monstrous power, the girl switches to Demonic Slash, coating her weapon in dark elemental mana. Paul is exhilarated to face someone who can challenge him head-on. He launches an uppercut while Evelyn counters with Enhanced Rapid Stab. Their moves escalate to Paul's Shockwave Slash, clashing against the girl's Mountain Crushing Strike. The hero releases a shockwave that lands multiple hits, forcing the girl back. Watching the fight, Joseph marvels that this could be a battle between two students. He predicts the spiritual swordsman will lose without a trump card. Yet to a senior observer, the two seem evenly matched. Initially, the girl blocked only one swing out of three, but now she deflects one out of every two. Heavy weapon users usually defend and retreat to conserve energy, but Paul shows no sign of holding back. The warhammer keeps the swordsman on the defensive, restricting her movements throughout the fight. Paul, the fierce Saint Knight, fights at full strength against the skilled swordswoman. As he finishes warming up, he activates all his angel buffs. Evelyn is overwhelmed by the intense pressure, realizing this is Paul's true power. As Paul executes Spear of Victory, the girl narrowly dodges with Phantom Slash, swiftly repositioning to strike. The hero anticipates her move, staying 2 steps ahead and attacking from another angle. He pauses and asks if she wants to continue. Evelyn declines, admitting the outcome won't change against such relentless aggression. However, she reveals she held back her full swordsman skills and dark elemental powers. Paul acknowledges her restraint, impressing her with his sharp observation. It was, after all, only a sparring match, and she hadn't used her trump card. She also notes that Paul wasn't fighting at full strength. She had seen his exam video. She asks him to add her and suggests they spar again in the future. Paul gives Evelyn his number to Grace and says they can head out. Not only did the hero earn 600 points on his first day at school, but he's already making other recruits wary of him. Grace explains that the freshman dormitory is on the small mountain, while the regular students' dorms are at the mountain's base and along the mountainside. The special recruits' dormitory, however, is at the mountain's peak. Not only that, but their dorms are actually independent mansions with luxury and equipment that vary by rank. Grace leads Paul to where he'll be living from now on. As they enter, she mentions that she heard he's looking for a freezing lotus. A party once saw a freezing lotus in the Tempest Mountain Range, but they gave up on collecting it because high-level monsters guarded it. That info is from 6 years ago, so Grace warns it may not be accurate. Paul begins his research. The Tempest Mountain Range rose up after Earth merged with the eternal game world. It's vast, filled with treasures, exotic plants, and creatures. Even tertiary awakened classes don't venture there lightly. With Paul's current strength, he'd have to run if he encounters a high-level monster. But the system rewarded him with a life-saving item after the exam, which is resurrection after death. There's no reason to hesitate. The hero will head out as soon as he buys some skills and equipment. Luckily, Saint Knight skills below Grade A are free for rank 001. Since it's all free, Paul picks Immunity to Physical Damage, a skill that doesn't need a weapon, so it seems reliable. He also chooses a long-range attack skill. The hero's excited, but he still has to spend points to collect the forest set he was rewarded with after the exam. Paul immediately heads to the Tempest Mountain Range, but spots a massive explosion. He puts on the forest set equipment he bought with his points. Meanwhile, he chats with Evelyn. She suggests they go to the gym together tomorrow, but he mentions he's at the range. The girl gets anxious and calls her friend. Evelyn tells her friend she met a guy and he's something special. Her friend, casually doing her nails, asks what's so special about him. Evelyn says she challenged him yesterday and even used some of her charm ability during the fight, but he was totally unfazed. Not a hint that he was falling for her tricks. The friend guesses his willpower must be incredibly strong. That's it, Evelyn decides. She's heading to the Tempest Mountain Range too. A team is already there fighting the monsters. Mechanic Luna is hurling bombs at them, but even that can't take down such powerful monsters. Another teammate, Christy, summons an ice spirit. Gunner Sophia fires at the monsters with her powerful magic gun. It's the perfect moment for swordswoman Sarah to rush in and slash the monsters down. The team shouts that they did it, but just as they start to drive away, their car blows up. Luna's exhausted, struggling with her injuries as her team shouts for her to be careful. Now they're surrounded by giant demons. They've used up all their trump cards and have only managed to kill 4 monsters. They start to wonder if this is really the end for them. Paul races over on his new companion, a white magic wolf. He unleashes a sacred storm, sucking all the demons into a massive tornado. Paul chants a spell. Let the light converge, let the storm fall. The wolf quickly puts out the fire, and Paul starts healing the girls with slow regeneration. They're incredibly grateful. They never imagined the hero would recognize them. The Blue Phoenix team is one of the top 3 at the university. Of course, Paul knows that, and now the girls feel even more embarrassed. One of them mentions that while Paul's light element may give him an edge against demons, they're still too dangerous, and suggests heading back to base to resupply. The hero spent a month exploring the outer areas, but there's still no sign of the freezing lotus. With the freshman competition just 3 days away, he'll have to continue his search afterward. Paul agrees to return, and Luna uses Scream of the Metal Soul of Speed, Phantom Ringing. A giant mech spider appears, and she tells everyone to hop in since time's short. Paul asks Senior Sue if the Tempest Mountain Range even has demons normally. She explains that her team has ventured into the outer area many times, but this is the first time they've encountered demons there. This could mean the demons are coming from deeper within the mountains, or that a dimensional crack has opened nearby. She says they need to head back to base and alert the military. But Paul recalls that there's a mage monitoring the entire area from within the military zone. The mountain range is full of monsters. To keep them from breaking out and attacking cities, the military set up a resupply and trading base at the entrance. The mage's tower, which tracks monster movements, is heavily guarded by the army. Senior Sue adds that although there's surveillance, these demons are too low level. Paul's surprised since level 20 platinum demons are hardly what you'd call low level. The Mage Tower mainly tracks epic and legendary monsters in the mountain range's deeper regions. Sue points out that if another world presence is below the tower's minimum detection setting, it might not register it at all. But if there's a dimensional crack, she wonders why it's only bringing in low-level demons. They'd be wiped out instantly if the military spotted them, and a crack that can let level 30 demons through could also allow level 50 or higher demons to pass. Invading with weak forces would not only waste lives, but also expose the crack's location. Whatever the case, it's not Paul's problem to figure out, he'll just report the intel. But in the distance, monstrous screams echo, craving prey. As they drive closer, they see battle light up the sky. Someone's surrounded by demons over there. Paul quickly mounts his wolf, telling the Phoenix team to go on ahead. He'll catch up. They have no idea how many demons there are, and it could be dangerous, but Paul doesn't listen. He recognizes this presence immediately. The hero wonders what Evelyn is doing here. Another team is resting nearby. They remark that this girl won't last much longer against almost 20 platinum demons. Some think about helping, but decide against it. They're trapped here themselves and can barely defend themselves. If Evelyn can manage to escape these solo demons, she'll have a bright future ahead. Meanwhile, Evelyn is struggling with the swarm of demons. They seem to have realized her skill has a time limit, so they surround her without attacking, waiting her out. The demons move in groups of 10, spread across the plain, even counting the 8 demons she's already killed. More demons immediately fill the gaps. There's no chance of her escaping to the resupply base. If Evelyn can't break through before her succubus power runs out, but suddenly a lightning bolt strikes, burning all the demons to ashes. She instantly knows who it is. Paul rushes over, telling her to step back. But the giant demon lets out a roar so loud that Evelyn can barely stand. Evelyn tells Paul to run, warning that the demon is in berserk mode. She explains that the demon's power has doubled, and she doubts Paul can handle it. Evelyn considers self-destructing, thinking there's a 90% chance she can kill the demon and protect the hero. But before she can act, Paul grabs her, and they fly away together. Paul uses the Punishment of Light spell, burning the demon to ash. He remarks that it's no wonder everyone wants to be a mage. Taking out monsters from a distance feels fantastic. But as they continue, they encounter an overwhelming number of demons, 180 in total. Paul could use AoE skills to manage them, but the demons are spread out. Their noise has attracted all the demons in the plains. He tells Evelyn to go left to draw the demons away, advising her not to get too involved in fighting. He touches her forehead, bestowing her with the Saint Knight's team buffs. With the buffs, she can proceed while Paul starts hammering demon heads. Evelyn is stunned. Each of her stats increased by 25%, effectively doubling her power. She knows even level 25 Saint Knights can't usually grant this much. But there's no time to dwell on it. She needs to follow Paul's instructions. The hero tackles the demons, but their sheer number allows them to attack from all directions. He notices Evelyn using a shadow whip, formed by concentrating demonic miasma into a whip to strike enemies. Classes with holy light like Paul's attract the most demons. Nearly all the demons in the plains have now gathered around them. Paul casts a holy light shield around Evelyn, granting her immunity to physical damage. He tells her to stay within it while he summons the Holy Cross, dealing continuous holy fire damage to all enemies within range. Under the holy light, all darkness shall be vanquished. He then casts The Light Converges, the Storm Falls, which summons a storm, dealing holy damage to enemies in range. Again, the demons are sucked into a massive tornado. Nearby, a resting team watches, barely able to believe a human is capable of this. Someone asks their boss if they should go over and introduce themselves. With only their boss at level 26 and the rest of the team at level 24, they struggle with just 10 demons, let alone 180. They agree Paul is formidable, and their boss decides they must befriend him. Meanwhile, the Phoenix team arrives to help but is dumbfounded by the scene. All the demons lie dead, with Paul and Evelyn standing at the center. It's finally over. The system congratulates Paul for leveling up to 18, gaining 60,000 experience points from the 180 demons. Unfortunately, there's an experience cap for each class level, or he would have gained even more. Paul's mana has grown significantly, but with so many high-level skills, it's still insufficient. He plans to ask his teacher for advice. The Phoenix team approaches, and Senior Sue asks if Paul really handled all of this. His strength defies their expectations. But Evelyn seems unwell. It looks like she overexerted herself. Sue asks if they encountered any particularly strong demons. Paul replies that the highest level demons he fought were level 23 gold grades, so there were no exceptionally tough ones. Sue explains that the Demon Legion has a general, just like the human army. If the general isn't here, then the Demon Legion's main troops aren't either. They shouldn't stay here. She suggests they return to the base to resupply right away. Meanwhile, the other team follows Paul, hidden in the bushes, and one girl asks if they should reveal themselves now. But suddenly a chilling demonic aura fills the air, signaling the arrival of more demons. The first to arrive is a demon spawn, level 30 of legendary grade. Following it is a flying fire dragon, level 24 gold grade. At headquarters, an emergency alert goes out, confirming a 4th-tier otherworld invasion, and all troops are told to prepare for combat. Every player hears this message. The Snow Dragon Corps' Night Squad halts their training and gathers at the teleportation square. The Snow Dragon Corps' Priest Squad is instructed to prepare for healing, keeping their mana reserves full. The Logistics Squad is directed to gather magic cores and relocate magic shards. Major Louis Thompson of the Snow Dragon Corps is informed that all units have arrived and await his orders. He declares that he will be the sword to cut down all obstacles and the shield that protects his land. Louis repeats the declaration and orders his forces to move out. The Fire Dragon handpicks every demon in the Legion, and in half a year on Earth, he's only lost a dozen of them. But at their final celebration before returning to the Sacred Realm, hundreds of his demons were killed. With half a day remaining, he orders his legion to go on a rampage before they depart. The demon spawn announces that he will steal souls and burn them with hellfire. Demon spawn Oramus uses a summoning skill, conjuring platinum and gold demons. Seeing this, Sue realizes they're facing legendary monsters, golden-grade demon knights and platinum-grade demon mages. She tells Paul the Blue Phoenix team will protect him and urges him to escape at the first opportunity. Sarah agrees, insisting he must survive. Sue believes Paul is the most gifted talent she's ever seen. For an elite like him, the Blue Phoenix team would gladly sacrifice their lives. Suddenly, a magic circle appears in the sky. Sophia exclaims that it's the Snow Dragon Corps. They are people above level 30 who've gone through their second awakening, and even the Major is a level 51 warrior who completed his third awakening. Sophia shouts that they're saved. Urimus laughs, assuring them there's no need to worry. The human army is unable to breach his magic barrier. Lewis checks with his teammates, wondering how they missed the landing point so badly. Someone explains that they're trapped within a large-scale demon barrier formation, the Dark Firewall. Once activated, this barrier blocks teleportation and repels outside attacks. They'd need at least 2 core to break it. Alternatively, they could wait for it to naturally dissipate, but it would take 5 minutes. Louis sighs and instructs his team to record the names of those inside and prepare to inform their families after the battle. Legendary demons are confirmed on site, triggering a new achievement mission for Paul. He needs to kill the demon spawn to receive S+ grade talent and a fortunate medicine as rewards. Without hesitation, he steps forward. Sensing the holy aura, the dragon realizes Paul is the one who killed his followers. The dragon plans to personally break Paul's skill and to make him die in excruciating agony. Oremus breathes his demonic flame at Paul, causing everyone to panic. But the hero's holy power is able to block the attack. With a powerful holy slash, Paul tears off Oremus's wing, sending him crashing to the ground. Now, only the demon dragon remains. It's a tough fight as the dragon's strength is terrifying. Paul stealthily creeps up on the dragon and attacks from behind. The dragon is bewildered. How can a mere level 18 human rival his power? Paul remarks that the demon is incredibly tough and notes that this is the first legendary monster he's ever faced. Furious, the dragon tries to retaliate, but the hero's blade, glowing pure white, stuns him. It's time for the punishment of light, but the dragon activates his fire demon shield just in time. The dragon laughs, taunting that even the punishment of light is ineffective against him. Paul realizes that he can't defeat this powerful, legendary demon with ordinary means. His only option is to use the reward he received after the exam. But the demon generals have now arrived. The dragon commands his forces to kill this mere human. Paul surges with holy energy, gathering it around him. Everyone is left speechless, struck with awe. A massive golden hand descends from the sky, casting an ominous feeling over the demons. With a single touch, the arm smashes the demon. People can't believe their eyes. They wonder if they're dreaming. Even Evelyn's succubus bloodline feels fear. Louis exclaims that this power rivals regular magic cannons and asks his deputy if he has identified who's inside the barrier. The deputy reports that the individuals inside are students from Sukang University, and the one casting the skill is this year's top special recruit, Saint Knight Paul White. First year, first place, Louis says it's too bad their level difference is too huge. If Paul had more time to grow, this skill alone could have killed the demon spawn. Outraged, the dragon, Oremus, commands his legion to charge, furious that a human dares to defy him. Paul finds himself surrounded by an overwhelming horde of demons. The generals reassure each other, saying that Paul, a mere level 18 Saint Knight, must be low on mana after so many battles. Paul's God Arm skill has exhausted all his mana, and his equipment's mana recovery rate is too slow. He's on his own now. His only hope is a one-time use skill called Divine Summoning, a secret technique from the Saint Knight Hall that doesn't require mana. Upon activation, it grants him the power of the God of Light, boosting all 4 of his stats. A golden ray pierces the demon barrier. A sacred angel descends, lifting Paul in her hands. Her feathers scatter across the battlefield, burning every demon they touch. Louis identifies it as a divine summoning technique, while his deputy asks what it means. Mr. Thompson explains that it's a top-level skill exclusive to divine-type classes, allowing them to channel the power of the divinity they serve. He recalls seeing a level 58 priest use the technique once, instantly restoring an entire legion to peak condition. Thanks to a divine summoning, the Snow Dragon Corps had managed to withstand 3 sieges from demon legions until reinforcements arrived. Oremus shouts in disbelief, declaring that such a powerful secret technique shouldn't be accessible to a mere level 16 knight. Only a being with divine power could interrupt it. If Paul completes the casting, the entire demon legion will be wiped out. Oremus marvels that the skill can shift seamlessly between offense and defense. The demon return formation in Dark Shadow Valley needs only 1 more minute. They just need to hold out until then for the demon prince to escape. Oremus rallies his generals, urging them to show their loyalty. The dragon orders them to sacrifice everything to the great Oremus. Each general swears to give all they have to become part of Oremus's power. Oremus begins absorbing all the demonic energy from his subordinates. The sacred angel comments on the ugly and tragic nature of this lowly species. She bestows upon the Saint Knight the power of the divine. She declares, "Let there be light," and directs all her strength toward the demons, creating a massive explosion. The demonic prince roars defiantly into the holy ray. He sacrifices all his power to unleash solar flare. The flame demon races strongest innate skill, condensing fire to the extreme. The resulting fireball reaches temperatures of 15 million degrees Celsius. Without the sacrifice of his tribe, Oremus could never have cast this skill. Now the massive fireball hurtles toward Paul, intending to kill him. It's the most incredible explosion ever seen as demon and saint powers collide. In the center of the blast, Paul stands unharmed, unmoved. Oremus falls into despair, realizing their powers aren't on the same level. A minute has passed and Urimas hopes to escape through the formation. Paul proclaims, "In the name of God, I judge the spawn to death." With a divine slash, the monster collapses, leaving a massive rift in the ground. The dragon tries to move but remains hopeful for an escape, only to be instantly killed by the divine power. The demon generals are left leaderless and unsure, unable to escape back to the sacred realm with the return formation damaged. Paul, completely exhausted, collapses. The Phoenix team and Evelyn rush to his side. They call for a priest to check his status as Paul's eyes slowly close. He feels a heavy weight on his chest, making it hard to breathe. Paralyzed, Paul wonders if he's haunted or if he's about to die. At this moment, he wakes up in a hospital bed, confused. Evelyn is beside him, relieved that he's finally awake after 2 days of sleep. Paul jokes that if he had woken up a bit later, she might have suffocated him with her care. Before notifying anyone else, she leans over, kisses him on the cheek, and thanks him for saving her. Paul sleeps for 2 days and misses out on the daily mission rewards. Hopefully, his achievement rewards will make up for it. For killing the demon's son, Paul receives an S+ grade talent called Death Resistance, a healing ability. Plenty of classes have similar talents, but each one works differently. With an S+ grade talent like Death Resistance, Paul suspects there's something special about it. To test it, he takes a knife and cuts his chest. The wound heals in 2 seconds. Amazing! Looks like our hero won't have to worry about regular injuries in battles now. His survival odds just went way up. He wonders what it would do for severe injuries, like losing a limb, but now's not the time to experiment with that. He also gets a lucky potion that grants intense luck for the next 12 hours. But how lucky are we talking? Stumbling upon a legendary weapon on the street? Maybe that old lady he helped turns out to be a powerful Tier 3 class? This potion is full of possibilities, so he decides to save it for later. His third reward is a skill called Holy Flame Halo. And it's not just any skill, it's divine. Since Holy Flame Halo is a light-type skill, it can be boosted by protection of the Sacred Angel. When buffed, it increases light and flame damage by 40%. This means that with Holy Flame Halo active, he can combine it with Punishment of Light to wield both light and flame power as a dual-element mage. Suddenly, someone knocks at the door. It's Carl Russell, the vice captain of the Snow Dragon Legion. Carl thanks Paul for killing the demon's son and destroying the portal. Thanks to him, they managed to capture many demons. Captain Thompson would have come to thank Paul himself, but he's got urgent matters to handle. Paul's final blow destroyed half of Dark Shadow Valley, but they preserved the traces of the demonic descent. The Legion found out the demon's secrets, and Captain Thompson is reporting it to the higher-ups. Carl snaps his fingers, filling the room with images of the findings. He says these are resources accumulated by the Legion over centuries, and tells Paul to feel free to request anything he wants. Among these treasures are several S-grade items. Paul asks if they have a frozen lotus. Carl checks and shows him a picture, asking if it's what he's looking for. Paul happily confirms. It costs 100 million points, which is apparently 3 years of Carl's salary. Carl laughs that he'll need to clear it with the captain. Carl says the frozen lotus is in their headquarters warehouse, so it'll take a few days to get here. If Paul's bored, he can arrange for someone to help him hunt monsters in the valley. Carl will let Paul hunt monsters with kids his age in the Legion and get closer. Once the hero becomes part of the top order, the Legion can benefit from this friendship. Paul thanks him but explains he has to return to school for the freshman competition tomorrow. He asks if they can just mail the frozen lotus to his dorm. Carl sighs, forgetting for a moment that Paul's still a student, and agrees to have it sent to his dorm at Sukang University in 2 days. Paul breathes a sigh of relief, knowing Cindy's saved. He almost feels grateful to the demon's son. Without that fight, he'd never have gained access to the Legion's warehouse. It's almost noon, so he decides to tackle his daily missions. Meanwhile, the girls from the Blue Phoenix team approach Captain Sue, asking if they can invite Paul to join the team. Sue doubts he'll agree, noting he'd likely be more effective hunting solo with his power, but Sophia insists they won't know until they ask. Besides, Sue seems to want him on the team too. The girls have caught her sneaking glances at him. So, Sue decides to pay Paul a visit and asks if he'd like to join the Blue Phoenix team. She mentions that Sophia and Luna might be heartbroken if he says no, but Paul thinks she's joking. Sue says it's her way of thanking him for saving them in Tempest Valley. She surprises him with a kiss on the cheek, calling it his special thank you. A special reward, a special thank you. Girls these days are bold. Meanwhile, Lewis reports to the higher-ups that the demons invaded half a year ago and have been hiding in Tempest Valley ever since. Their investigation revealed that demons have learned to travel across worlds through medium-sized cracks. Previously, only large cracks could enable cross-world invasions. Large cracks are unstable, so they weren't a major threat, but there are countless medium-sized cracks all over the planet. If creatures from other worlds can travel through those, humanity could be in serious danger. The findings have been thoroughly verified. Luckily, only monsters under level 30 can pass through these medium cracks. But they know they need to act fast. The leader instructs Senator Vargas to inform all major legions in the country and assign guards for each medium crack. Senator Lee is tasked with presenting these findings at an international meeting to gauge other countries' reactions. The leader asks Captain Thompson if all this intel came from an 18-year-old. Lewis confirms, introducing Paul White, Sukang District's top student. He mentions Paul's divine summoning technique and his significant contributions to the Legion's success. The higher-ups are astounded, noting that a Saint Knight ranking first place is rare. One even speculates that Paul could be a descendant of the Frosted White family. They ask Senator Tony Hawkins, who is also Sukang University's headmaster, to evaluate Paul when he returns to school. They tell Tony to report back if Paul shows potential, as the people in the room are the strongest in the country. With their support, Paul's future could be limitless. At Sukang University, the students are informed that the freshman competition starts at 10 a.m. All students are advised to gather on the field by then. Housemasters William Holland of the Armament House and Jeffrey Holt of the Elemental House are there. They're joined by Linda Kahn, Housemaster of the Tactic House, and Joshua Hammond, Housemaster of the Logistics House. Mark Herbert, the Warhouse Housemaster, welcomes everyone and reminds them that Sukang University is their chosen path. As Mr. Herbert begins explaining the rules, Teacher Grace wonders where Paul and Evelyn are. They could lose their chance to compete if they don't show up soon. The students notice Paul's absence, and many are pleased to see one less powerful competitor in the mix. Simon, the red-haired student, is especially happy. He mocks Paul, saying he wasted a month and now doesn't even have the courage to compete. The first phase of the competition begins with a Secret Realm challenge. Mr. Herbert opens the Silver Secret Realm. This year's freshman class is the largest and strongest in the university's history. To allow them to fully showcase their abilities, the teachers have added Abyss difficulty. The students notice strange flames burning at the realm's portal. Some say it's insane. Abyss difficulty is dozens of times harder than Nightmare difficulty. Mr. Herbert advises everyone to bring their best potions, equipment, and weapons. The competition officially begins. The secret realm is a bear monster nest. Most students choose the two highest difficulty levels, showing their ambition. Mr. Herbert asks where students #001 and #002 are. Grace explains they went to the Tempest Mountain Range for training and haven't returned yet. The housemasters are outraged. The freshman competition sets their future training paths and resources, so being late is unacceptable. Grace tries to defend Paul, but the housemasters aren't listening. They think students like him need to build fortitude. At the last second, Paul appears, carrying Evelyn. He apologizes for the delay. Now that everyone's here, Evelyn's thrilled they made it on time. They enter the bear monster nest, having chosen Abyss difficulty, where monsters are ultra-violent. Paul immediately activates all his buffs. The monsters are various types of bears, most of them around level 17. Paul hopes this rumored Abyss difficulty will push him to his limits and rushes into the fight. Meanwhile, Evelyn slices through bears with her instant army-breaking slash, delivering powerful hits that pierce through defenses. Simon doesn't waste any time either. He gathers all his fiery energy and unleashes a massive fire punch. The other students are holding their own too. Some have already taken down more than 10 bears. The teachers are pleasantly surprised. Freshmen usually panic and get forced to retreat right away, but this group is managing well. Mr. Herbert asks to see what Paul is up to. He's curious about what Paul can do after wasting a month. But Paul's already cleared the first level in just 5 seconds. Even the teachers can't understand it. All Paul used was a support skill, Holy Flame Halo, yet it somehow generated enough firepower to instantly kill the bear monsters. Mr. Herbert points out that many factors can boost skill power, like intelligence stats, buffs, treasures, and so on. Even with all of Mark's experience, he can't quite figure out what makes this strange halo so effective. Looks like Paul didn't waste his time in the mountains. Using Punishment of Light, Paul clears the second level, taking down 200 bears in just 1 minute and 23 seconds. The third level isn't much of a challenge for him either. He switches to his Spear of Victory. With a single strike, he clears the third level and sets a new record for this secret realm. His rewards include a B+ grade skill book, experience points, and stat points. He also gets to pick one talent out of 3 choices. At A-class level, talent selection is critical. This must be a perk of silver grade and above secret realms. It's great that he gets to choose. This way he won't get stuck with a useless talent. Rapid Steps is good, but Focus Halo is even better. In real combat, you need time to react to the enemy's moves. The stronger the opponent, the faster their attacks, and the more essential quick reaction time becomes. Focus Halo reduces the risk of Paul's skills being interrupted and could even turn the tide of a fight if he uses it wisely. He makes his choice. Now he's offered the chance to open additional levels after clearing the secret realm. There's a foul stench coming from the portal. Paul hopes the extra levels will be challenging. The teachers are impressed by his strong combat style and flawless elemental control. Paul adapts quickly and thinks on his feet. Abyss difficulty definitely wasn't wasted on him. They comment that Paul is exceptionally well-rounded, but Miss Khan points out that his Saint Knight class might be too well-rounded. As he levels up, he'll need more points to stand out, and his results might start looking average. By the way, Paul hasn't decided which house to join yet. Mr. Holt notes that Paul's mastery of elemental magic would make him a good fit for the elemental house. Tony Hawkins, the headmaster, steps in and mentions that recruitment has already begun. He's disappointed he missed seeing Paul in action. Walking through the additional level, Paul notices a pile of bones. It looks like a cult ritual was held here. Where there are benevolent gods, there must also be evil ones. Evil gods aren't just tied to darkness. They're beings of chaos and madness. There's a big difference between the two. Believing in the god of light or darkness only requires pure, genuine faith. But praying to evil gods demands fresh life and souls. Decades ago, the infamous Bloody Abyss incident was caused by a third-tier class holder who worshipped an evil god. He planned to sacrifice an entire mid-sized city, killing millions instantly and skyrocketing from level 54 to level 89. Although he was eventually eliminated, the millions of souls consumed by the evil god could never be returned. Since then, worship of evil gods has been banned, and anyone caught doing it is executed. But belief in evil gods offers quick power, so many people still take the risk. It's not only humans who pray to evil gods. Some beastmen, elves, and even angels do it too. And now Paul meets one. The bear he encounters was once the leader of the bear monster tribe, but was transformed into a ghost through an evil god ritual. This undead is immune to physical attacks. Martial artists would be stunned to see this as the final boss. Paul taunts the bear to come at him, drawing it into a tornado, but the monster manages to dodge. The bear acknowledges the strength of Paul's holy light, but claims it's pointless against the immortality granted by the great Lord Exia. The thick holy light makes the boss think Paul is using his trump card, but the bear declares it's all futile and that the human's efforts are nothing but a pointless struggle. The bear warns that the next time it resurrects will mark the hero's death, but Paul disagrees. He sets the ground ablaze with the power of light. The bear roars, insisting that no one can kill it. Such a noisy beast. Paul intensifies his attacks, ignoring the monster's final pleas. He clears the extra level in just over a minute. As a reward, Paul receives experience points and a gold-grade Ursa horn. The return portal appears. As expected, unlimited revival was only an illusion. All Paul needed was to burn away its power to defeat it. When he first entered, Paul sensed a faint, violent power. It wasn't an elemental power, but it felt similar to the divine power he sensed when using his summoning skill, hinting at remnants of an evil god's influence. After the bear resurrected the first time, that power weakened slightly. Paul deduced there was a limit to the bear's resurrections. The right strategy to clear this level was to kill the bear repeatedly, forcing it to drain its source of evil energy until depleted. Meanwhile, Simon faces the boss too. He comments that extra levels are definitely the toughest part of a secret realm. You need to defeat the bear ghost 10 times to finish it. Luckily, Simon leveled up twice recently, so he's confident he can finish in 8 minutes. The teachers note that Paul used an S-rank skill and found a shortcut by chance. It appears the Saint Knight has a hidden advantage. One teacher remarks that S-rank skills aren't typically accessible to students from remote areas, but he doesn't finish as the headmaster Tony cuts him off. Mr. Herbert wonders if the headmaster is favoring a student. Grace initially thinks Paul's level is incorrect, but he's genuinely at level 19. When the university entrance exam results came out, Paul was only level 13. Not even an abyss-level secret realm should allow such a jump of 6 levels. Tony knows a bit about it. Paul went monster hunting and leveled up after being admitted. His time in the Tempest Mountains paid off. The headmaster says that for someone who could take down the Flame Demon army alone, the freshman competition is nothing. If not for the competition determining resource distribution, Paul probably wouldn't even bother participating. In a hurry, Simon exits the portal and is stunned that Paul finished before him. Simon, fuming, assumes Paul must have failed the extra level and left early. Coming from one of the 8 great families of Jiangning, Simon believes it's impossible to lose to someone from the remote north. Shortly after Evelyn falls out of the portal, Paul catches her, warning her to be careful. She's thrilled that he cleared the realm faster than she did. They don't have time to chat as more students tumble out of the portal, begging for help. Grace hurries over, calling for the medic team immediately. An hour later, the first phase of the freshman competition is officially over, and they announce the rankings and clear times. Simon smirks, having grown impatient for this moment. But he's shocked to find himself in second place. Paul completed it a full 15 minutes faster. Simon is outraged. First, Paul took the top spot in the entrance exams, and now he's stolen first place in the freshman competition too. Moments later, Mr. Herbert announces the start of the second phase of the freshman competition, Free Challenge. Each student has 3 opportunities to challenge others with a 5-minute rest between matches. The students start selecting their opponents based on class. Naturally, Simon challenges Paul, eager to prove who is stronger. Evelyn mentions that Simon Cobb, the runner-up, is from a prestigious family in Jiangning and possesses a rare fire dragon bloodline. Paul's sudden appearance disrupted Simon's goal of ranking first in Sukong District, so Simon holds a grudge. Paul is aware that Simon is far weaker, but blinded by rage, Simon can't see it. Paul hopes he'll make him go all out. Simon has been eager to see who's stronger, Saint Knight versus Berserker. Simon begins with a fiery punch, using the Blood Berserk skill, aiming to end the fight quickly. He immediately uses Blood Berserk to power up his fire punch and strikes first, trying to prevent Paul from buffing himself. But with the Holy Light's protection, Paul blocks all of Simon's attacks. This B+ grade skill partially blocks physical damage. Simon had hoped Paul wouldn't be able to use it, but he was too slow. Our hero comments that Simon's attacks are fast, but he only needs 0.1 seconds to activate Holy Light protection. Hoping Simon would offer a real challenge, Paul held back from striking first. However, Simon disappoints him, so the hero counters with a hammer strike. Paul instantly shatters Simon's fire shield. Simon can't understand how he is so powerful. Our character is already right next to him, and Simon can't avoid the attack. Unwilling to lose, Simon uses his fire dragon body to block the hammer. This seems to be the power hidden in Simon's bloodline, similar to Evelyn's. It appears that classes with special bloodlines have trump cards derived from their lineage. Paul is envious of the power, but even with his bloodline active, Simon is still no match. The hero's next attack creates a huge explosion, but Simon dodges it. The guy declares that his fire dragon bloodline isn't limited to close combat and vows to show Paul its true power. He unleashes a dragon breath attack. Spectators are in awe, noting that Simon has been forced to use his trump card. They speculate that, without a special bloodline, Paul may be at a disadvantage. But the hero has other plans. With a holy flame halo, he absorbs the dragon breath. Simon, outraged, yells in disbelief as his flames seem to bow to Paul's control. None of Simon's attacks are effective. His flames cannot escape our hero's influence. It's time to end the fight, but Simon asserts that Paul can only dream of defeating him with his own flames. Simon tries to regain control of his flames, attempting to dismantle the hero's hold, but he's forced to the ground by a powerful holy ray. Unconscious, Simon has lost. A prideful and arrogant berserker defeated while being outmatched throughout the fight. and Paul wasn't even using his full strength. If he had, no one could fathom how terrifying he'd be. With his level and sharp combat instincts, it's natural for Paul to dominate Simon. It's surprising he leveled up 5 times in just a month. Suddenly, another district's top student arrives. Her name is Aurora Bailey, a level 17 Taoist priest, wishes to learn from Paul. Spiritual Taoist priests are rare in China, adept at using sealing techniques and talismans. When Cindy's sickness was linked to her bloodline, a Taoist priest suggested a powerful sealing technique. Paul didn't expect to encounter a spiritual Taoist priest here. The hero greets Aurora, informing her of his level. She realizes he didn't use his full strength earlier and wants to experience his maximum power. Students are shocked that Paul has reached level 19, several levels ahead. Aurora is popular too, coming from a renowned family. Our hero assures her he'll go all out if she wishes, and she eagerly agrees. The fight begins, and Paul activates all his divine buffs. He announces he's using his full power and looks forward to a challenging fight. Aurora also resolves to fight with her full strength. She invokes a spell calling upon divine spirits to obey her commands. She starts with a huge explosion, but Paul is nowhere to be seen. He appears right behind her, noting that changing positions won't allow her to escape him. Aurora quickly evades his attack, wondering how Paul got so close. Even with all her protective gear active, it can only provide temporary defense. Using such a technique involves significant risk. Aurora chants, summoning divine soldiers to her side with the power of Taoist magic. It's the Taoist technique of scattering beams to form soldiers, and now her summoned beasts rush at Paul. While the Taoist soldiers aren't difficult to handle, they regenerate like ghosts, making them a bit troublesome. It seems he'll have to cut off the source of their magic to defeat them fully. Aurora is amazed. Her Taoist array should handle even level 30 powers, yet Paul is unfazed. When our hero is about to strike, Aurora raises her hands, surrendering. She admits her defeat. Paul is puzzled, as she initially wanted a quick, intense fight. Aurora explains that they are simply not on the same level, so she concedes respectfully. She jokes that Paul would end up like Simon in another match, but looks forward to learning from him in the future. Paul asks if anyone else wants to challenge him. If not, he's open to anyone who does. Immediately, the other students make excuses or find other opponents to battle. Paul's strength and physique overpower the warriors, while his agility and intellect surpass the mages. His abilities astound Grace. With the second round nearly over, the academies are about to recruit new students. Mr. Herbert sighs, noting that Paul will definitely be sought after by the academies. Grace feels anxious, but Mr. Herbert reassures her. He has plans to secure Paul for his academy. Meanwhile, another powerful student beats Simon once again. This opponent ranks up to 010, while Simon's ranking drops to 016. Simon seethes with rage. Other students are taking advantage of Simon's weakened state, each wanting to defeat him. Simon vows revenge once he recovers. 30 minutes later, the freshman competition concludes. Paul ranks first, Evelyn second, and Aurora third. Now everyone's rankings are rearranged. Accommodations and credits will also be redistributed afterwards. Mr. Herbert announces that the next step is academy selection, starting with presentations by the deans. Although the major alien invasion is over, many skilled warriors still fall on the battlefield each year. The War Academy's mission is to train students with strong practical skills to enhance their survival in battle. It embodies toughness and resilience. The Elemental Academy only accepts students with elemental magic as their primary skill. Jeffrey Holt will guide them toward mastering elemental magic. The Weapon Academy teaches students to maximize their use of weapons, focusing on physical strength and weapon mastery. The Tactical Academy trains students in battle command and strategy, open to all classes. The Logistics Academy emphasizes support skills, which are essential to any operation's success. Joshua Hammond invites students to join. With each academy introduced, students can now log into the system to select their preferred academy. Evelyn asks Paul which academy he plans to choose. Mr. Herbert offers to be Paul's private tutor if he joins his academy. Each tutor can mentor one exceptional student, granting them priority access to the tutor's resources. Mr. Herbert also offers gifts, including 3 A-rank skill books and an A-rank resource exchange voucher. Mr. Holt advises Paul to consider his options carefully, promising a legendary equipment set if he joins the Elemental Academy. Mr. Holland assures Paul that as a Weapon Academy member, he'd have access to anything that could enhance his strength. The deans begin arguing over who offered Paul first. It feels reminiscent of a past incident when 3 university teachers personally greeted a student. Being a tutor's exclusive student is like being a direct disciple within a family, with access to the tutor's resources. The students envy Paul. The dean's offers are incredibly generous. Mr. Herbert silently hopes Paul will join his academy. Interrupting the argument, Headmaster Tony Hawkins steps forward, offering to make Paul his personal disciple. Mr. Hawkins offers to teach Paul the bloodline fusion technique. Paul asks what it entails. Tony explains it's a forbidden technique using alien blood to grant the user immense strength for a special mission. This technique will drastically enhance Paul's physical power and grant him additional attributes and skill points with each level up. Simon can't handle Paul's sudden stroke of fortune. If it weren't for our hero, Simon would have gained the powerful support of Headmaster Hawkins himself. Evelyn is in disbelief. Paul's about to become even stronger with this bloodline change. Mr. Holt never imagined our hero would be so captivating that even the headmaster wants him as a student. Tony hints there's a lot more to Paul than people realize. Mr. Hawkins presents Paul with a reward from the Snow Dragon Legion's captain, a gold medal. Simon is stunned. Not even the Shen family, one of Ning'an's great 8 families, has one of these medals. So why does Paul get it? Aurora wonders if it's some kind of honor medal. Evelyn mentions that her grandfather fought on the front lines for years and only received a silver medal. On the back of the gold medal, it says it's awarded in honor of those who've contributed to China's civilization. Tony, knowing what Paul did in Tempest Valley, feels he's earned this prestigious gold medal for outstanding achievement. But Paul thinks it's odd. Surely eliminating 1 demon legion isn't enough for such an award. He wonders if there's more to it. He thanks the headmaster, saying he's honored to be his student. So, Mr. Hawkins suggests they waste no time and invites our hero to go with him right away. Mr. Herbert approaches Evelyn, but Mr. Holland steps in first, offering her a place as his personal disciple, with the same promise he made to Paul. Mr. Herbert shouts, asking if old William is challenging him on purpose. Mr. Holland replies that since Paul is now the headmaster's student, he won't let anyone else have Evelyn. Meanwhile, our hero and Tony arrive at a lavish estate. The place is full of potions. Mr. Hawkins explains it's his private mansion, mainly used to store valuable items. Paul is told he can come here for any business with the headmaster, who will soon help him choose materials for the bloodline transformation technique. This mansion is Mr. Hawkins's personal treasury. It requires instant teleportation to enter, possibly even from outside Sukang District or China. Mr. Hawkins explains that the bloodline transformation technique will allow Paul's bloodline to undergo a significant change. However, most people are so captivated by the forbidden grade spell that they overlook the true core of bloodline metamorphosis, the source blood. Ordinary human bloodlines have limited potential, and with each level up, the stat gains diminish. When people hit a limit in their classes, they often merge with another race's bloodline to grow stronger. Paul can't believe the teacher still has concerns about leveling up, even at his advanced level. Tony explains that at the tertiary awakening level, each new level demands a vast amount of experience. Mr. Hawkins is level 64, and creatures of that caliber are usually elite bosses. Mr. Hawkins has prepared 3 types of source blood for Paul, one from each of the angel, titan, and dragon races. All are divine bloodlines. Paul now has to choose one. The angel source blood is extracted from the corpse of an angel. The angel race is blessed by the god of light, so merging with this bloodline will give Paul a high affinity with the light element. Titans, who worship the god of thunder, are born with the ability to control lightning. Merging with Titan blood would greatly amplify Paul's lightning abilities. The dragon race, descended from the dragon god, has the purest dragon bloodline, giving Paul a natural dominance over beast races if he merges with it. Angels, titans, dragons, all are high-tier races above level 60. Paul asks the teacher which bloodline would suit him best. Though Paul has the system's guidance, he realizes he doesn't know enough about the world here to make a quick decision. While most young warriors would be overwhelmed by such choices and pick instinctively, Paul shows his maturity by thinking it through. Tony explains that while Titan and Dragon Source bloodlines are powerful, they mainly boost strength and mana. Given Paul's affinity with the God of Light, The angel source blood is likely his best choice, offering improvements beyond what he can imagine. So Paul chooses the angel source blood. It seems Paul is highly compatible with this choice. As Tony's fifth student, he'll have a chance to meet his four senior classmates later. The hero has one more question. Why was he awarded a gold medal? Surely it's not just for defeating a demon legion. Tony reveals that Paul's actions expose the demon legion's plan, allowing the military to discover that otherworldly creatures can travel through medium-sized cracks. Paul is horrified. This means there are already plenty of otherworld creatures hiding across China. Exactly, Tony confirms. Initial investigations have found hundreds of such cracks within China's borders. Thankfully, the creatures coming through are low level, so the legions can handle them. Tony explains that many legions across the country have been ordered to eliminate these otherworldly creatures, and the school's mission system will offer related tasks in the future. As his student, Mr. Hawkins hopes Paul will grow as strong as his senior classmates and contribute his power to the nation. But some preparations are still needed, so Mr. Hawkins advises Paul to rest. He gives him a teleportation device to use the next morning at 9 o'clock. Later, Paul is selecting a daily mission reward. His teacher mentioned that the outcome of bloodline fusion depends on both constitution and luck. The hero hopes the S-grade luck potion he obtained after defeating the demonic prince will come in handy. He drinks it and opens a random reward chest. To his surprise, he receives an S-grade treasure, the Long Ning fruit. It significantly boosts constitution and spell damage, and Paul is thrilled. Until now, everything he got from random chests was junk. But this luck potion helped him hit the jackpot. It's time to see the teacher. Arriving at the teacher's place, Paul overhears Mr. Hawkins and Mr. Holt in conversation. The elemental master comments on Tony's generosity, noting that a single angel corpse is so rare it could start wars between legions. Mr. Hawkins says he's been waiting for someone worthy of this source blood, and Paul is his choice. He's truly satisfied with Paul, so there's no need to hesitate. Seeing Paul is ready, Mr. Hawkins guides him through the bloodline transformation technique. The teacher instructs Paul to remove his clothing and sit in the center of the formation. Once Paul is settled, Master Holt activates the formation while Tony stands guard. As the ritual begins, a powerful chill surrounds Paul. Mr. Holt comments that our hero seems to have a special bloodline from the start. The room becomes completely frozen. If Paul were to switch his class to mage, he'd instantly rank among the top ice mages with this terrifying frost alone. The masters know his sister is awakening a frost bloodline, so they guess Paul might share the same trait. As one of the highest quality bloodlines, the angel's bloodline should suppress lower quality ones during the forging process. Tony didn't overthink it, but now the angel and frost bloodlines are countering and balancing each other. To possess such a potent frost bloodline, there may be more to Paul's heritage. Nearly all human bloodlines from other races trace back to the earliest players of the eternal game. After reality merged with the eternal game, the higher your level, the more complete your bloodline inheritance becomes. Paul's first power matches the strength of the angel bloodline. This could mean his ancestors were among the earliest high-level players of the eternal game. Otherwise, it would be impossible for a descendant like him to wield such a powerful frost bloodline. Without the frost bloodline's interference, the angel source blood would fully integrate into his body. Right now, the angel source blood and frost bloodline are clashing. Even if the frost bloodline were entirely erased, the angel source blood might also be depleted. With so much angel source blood lost, the end result might barely match that of consuming a grade A treasure. All the masters can do now is leave Paul's fate to destiny. Trying to stop the ritual could lead to his death by self-destruction. They silently hope the hero has good fortune on his side. Energy churns wildly within Paul's body. The gates of his consciousness open, and he enters the mental realm. An apostle greets him, saying, "The child is finally here." The apostle congratulates Paul on receiving God's blessing, announcing that it's here to grant him his true strength. You shall be unbound by morals, unshackled by rules, following only your own will and desires. The deity asks if Paul accepts this power, but the hero feels disgusted. He doesn't understand why his first instinct on seeing her is to summon a holy light hammer and strike her down. She urges him not to fear and to embrace this blessing, saying he'll gain power beyond measure. In that moment, the hero slams her with the hammer. Now he feels better. He realizes he should trust his instincts after all. The goddess chuckles, saying she's found someone interesting. She hopes this little hero won't disappoint her. The apostle yells that Paul dares to defy the divine, warning that God will unleash divine punishment that will erase him without a trace. She orders him to kneel and beg for forgiveness, saying she might consider pardoning his sin on God's behalf. Paul replies that there's no need. Furious, she calls him an insolent brat, binding his body with countless chains. With a crazed look, the apostle sneers, saying this is the consequence of defying Master Exia. Paul retorts that she's just a minion of an evil god. Enraged, Exia punches the hero, calling him insolent. She tells Paul he's successfully attracted her master's attention and that he has sent Exia to conduct his baptism. She tells him to rejoice, for Exia will lead him back to the righteous path. Paul writhes in pain as this malicious power begins corrupting his thoughts. Mr. Holt and Mr. Hawkins are baffled, sensing the presence of an evil god's power within the angel source blood. Tony wonders if this angel had been defeated by an evil god. Mr. Holt shouts that Paul is in danger. The evil god is determined to obliterate the angel's power, but Mr. Hawkins tells him to hold on. The angel's power within Paul isn't weakening, it's actually growing stronger. The frost and angel powers unite, breaking the chains that bind the hero. Exia is stunned. She can't understand how such intense divine power has suddenly surged forth when Paul's soul was nearly consumed. Now Paul is resolved to take down the evil god's underling. But as he strikes, the evil god himself appears, laughing and asking if the little guy is trying to tickle him. The god sneers, saying Paul's resistance is just a minor inconvenience in his grand plan. He stabs the hero's frost wings with chains, but the chains shatter and Paul activates a formation that pulls the monster inside, then stabs it with ice spears. The god laughs, saying he accepts Paul's little gift. What humans call power is merely a remnant of the light granted by God. As Exia's most devoted follower, the power this monster wields is beyond anything Paul can imagine. The demon's dark rays slice through Paul, binding him in chains once more. The monster scoffs, saying that worms only know how to run after all. Paul's soul is on the brink of being consumed, but he fights off Exia's dark energy with a fierce burst of holy light. He slashes through all of her dark rays. Watching this, a sacred angel smiles and says that it's over. The monster's body begins to collapse. Exia's follower can't believe it. The holy power obliterates the monster completely, absorbing every last trace. The angel grants Paul her own power. The formation explodes with holy light. Mr. Holt shouts that the power of the angel has completely eradicated the evil god's influence. The angel and frost bloodline seem to have merged in a very unique way. The sacred angel spreads her wings over Paul, filling him with holy energy. Mr. Holt remarks that Paul is incredibly lucky to receive the God of Light's blessing at a moment of crisis, banishing the threat. The teacher asks Paul how he feels. He says his power seems to have undergone a major transformation. The system grants him the six-winged angel bloodline. He also gains two bloodline abilities, Divine Mark and Magic Immunity. With Divine Mark, Paul now has an exceptional affinity for light and ice elements. And as his bloodline evolves, his compatibility with other elements will increase too. Magic Immunity gives Paul a chance to be immune to enemy magic, even non-damaging skills like Purify and Disperse. It looks like his bloodline forging was a massive success. The six-winged angel bloodline is the highest among all angels, and his talents will keep evolving into S+ grades. Not only that, Paul has unlocked an S+ grade bloodline technique called Angel Physique. To tap into its full potential, he'll need to unleash the power of his bloodline. Mr. Hawkins observes Paul's progress as he tries the secret technique, eager to see just how much Paul's power will increase. The hero activates the Angel Physique, unleashing a powerful wave of elemental energy. Hawkins notes that using the bloodline secret technique has multiplied Paul's strength by at least 5 times. The hero feels an incredible rush as his body fills with a power he's never felt before. The light and ice elements seem like loyal allies, responding to his control with ease. Suddenly, a system warning signals that high-level elemental energy is detected, triggering level 3 defense status. Hawkins comments that six-winged angels are truly favored by elemental energy and warns Paul to deactivate the technique before the room's defense system takes action. The energy disappears abruptly and Mr. Holt grows concerned. Paul explains that despite the incredible boost, his entire body feels sore and bloated even without a fight or prolonged use of the technique. He realizes that while the bloodline technique significantly amplifies power, the strength of the six-winged angel's bloodline can be overwhelming. He decides that the technique is best saved as a final trump card, given its intensity, an impressive six-winged angel bloodline with two evolving talents and an S+ grade technique at his command. Mr. Holt reflects that for other freshmen, keeping up with Paul is likely just a dream. Tony speculates that Paul's sister's Frost bloodline could be equally strong and suggests that if Paul wants her to awaken her bloodline under optimal conditions, he should consider refining the Frozen Lotus into a frost pill for her. Hawkins mentions that the university has a specialized pill forging department. Mr. Hawkins advises Paul to get some rest, and the man asks about the hero's encounter with the evil god's power, noting that any accident involving him would be a significant loss. Paul acknowledges that it was the god of light's protection that allowed him to survive, and Hawkins resolves to investigate every detail of the incident. To forge the frost pill, in addition to the frozen lotus, Paul will need another grade A treasure, icicle grass. The Snow Dragon Legion will deliver the frozen lotus soon, but the grass, with his current points, Paul can easily afford it at the school market, where metals cost between 500 and 2,000 points. There's a knock at the door, and it's Grace, one of the school's teachers, which makes Paul wonder why Miss Bennett is here. She comments on Paul's sudden increase in power, not from leveling up, but from the refinement of his bloodline. Grace explains that Mr. Herbert, the housemaster, sent her to bring the resources the Warhouse promised Paul, even though he chose Hawkins as his teacher. She adds that despite having Hawkins as his teacher, Paul's courses will be held at the Warhouse, and these resources are distributed by the Warhouse for students with high rankings. Paul finds it odd that Miss Bennett, a mage, is so involved with the Warhouse. Grace clarifies that mages can teach at the Warhouse, and she hands over the hero's resources for him to review. By a stroke of luck, he finds icicle grass among the resources, a much-needed item. Paul is grateful for the luck potion's effectiveness. With the frozen lotus and a few additional ingredients, he can now begin forging the frost pill. After thanking Miss Bennett and signing the contract, he prepares to receive her advice. Grace points out that while Paul's power is impressive, venturing into the deeper areas of Tempest Valley shows a bit of reckless confidence. She stresses that he needs to ensure he can defend himself before taking such risks. Paul keeps silent about his system's protection, which allows him to gauge Tempest Valley's danger level. Grace mentions that while many graduates from Su Kang are talented, only a few rise to elite status. Paul has to realize that many promising students face misfortune or fall short, so he accepts Grace's advice to stay cautious. He understands and asks for suggestions on safe training grounds that would give him real combat experience. Grace leads him to the basement where he can control training robots for realistic combat practice with adjustable difficulty. The training bots range from level 1 to 10, with increased numbers boosting their combat capabilities. At the highest difficulty, level 10, a bot can even match a level 20 opponent. Camera orbs surround Paul, ready to capture his entire session and collect data for a detailed report afterward. Grace advises him to start with lower difficulty levels since the bots use real blades and bullets. As she leaves for her class, Grace reminds Paul to be mindful of his limits and avoid overexertion, with instructions on how to begin the session using the camera orb. Alone, Paul instructs the camera orb to initiate the session and tells the bots to start at level 7 combat form. Combat monitoring activates and 50 combat training robots are deployed. A warning signals that level 7 combat form is active, and the robots begin shooting. Paul tests out his new frost power gained from merging with the frost bloodline, and the results are impressive. This frost power proves useful, even able to block powerful gunfire. Next, he unleashes the wind, creating a frost tempest that freezes everything around. Paul spreads the wind throughout the room, disabling all active robots. The training system congratulates him for passing the level 7 combat form test and begins calculating his training results. The frost power is highly effective for controlling enemies, making level 7 combat form easy to clear. Paul wonders if the highest difficulty will finally push him to his limits. He instructs the camera orb to activate level 10 combat form. Due to extensive damage to the training robots, a backup plan for level 10 combat form is triggered. Level 10 combat form initiates, deploying a supernatural-grade training robot. The stats of this robot are equivalent to a regular level 25 class. This robot operates with the highest intelligence rights, ensuring optimal offense and defense strategies. The user can stop the session immediately if combat becomes unsafe. This is exactly what Paul wanted, the chance to finally go all out. The training begins and the robot unexpectedly uses frost power, specifically an icy light double that combines light and ice. Paul decides to disarm the robot first, but it turns out he's the one disarmed as the robot, using similar holy power, blocks his hammer. Paul struggles to understand how it's copying his moves. Perhaps the camera orb is sharing his combat data with the robot. The system completes attack synchronization, enhancing the robot's combat abilities. Paul barely manages to dodge a powerful light attack. With weapon module optimization complete, the robot's cannon transforms into a mechanical wolf that chases Paul. He's shocked that the training system can replicate Tempest wolves, leaving him no choice but to fight head-on. He wonders aloud if the robot can replicate his angel physique. Meanwhile, Evelyn logs into her training account. After agreeing to become Housemaster Mr. Holland's personal disciple, she now has access to rare resources and has made significant progress in her cultivation. Previously, she struggled with level 7 combat form, but now she's ready to try again. The system notifies her that another student is currently challenging level 10 combat form. Evelyn is shocked, as this training area is meant for freshmen. Most can't even pass level 6. Even if it's Paul, she thinks challenging level 10 combat form wouldn't be easy. She wonders who's inside right now. Holy Chain activates, binding the enemy in chains made of holy light, restricting their movements. These chains once left Paul defenseless. Now he's ready to make the robot experience the same agony. The system detects an anomaly in this skill, unable to find a match in its current database. With Vision of Light, Paul can see the robot's weak points and hidden abilities, giving him the advantage in planning his next attack. He quickly realizes that the robot's weak point is its power source in the chest, so he targets it. He lands the final hit and the system initiates its final protocol. A self-destruct sequence begins. Level 10 combat form has been cleared. Given the intensity of the training, the system suggests Evelyn try again in a week. She's in disbelief, wondering who on earth could be inside right now. Evelyn watches in shock. The room is completely destroyed and Paul stands in the center of the wreckage. The system congratulates him for clearing the level 10 combat form trial in just 8 minutes and 32 seconds. He thinks that without the robot wolf's surprise attack, the fight would have been much easier. It looks like he needs a magical companion to fight alongside him. Evelyn rushes over, surprised at how much stronger he's gotten, and asks if he's completed the bloodline forging. Paul tells her he finished it that morning and now possesses the rare six-winged angel bloodline. Evelyn is in awe. Six-winged angel bloodlines are incredibly rare, while her succubus bloodline is fairly ordinary. Paul asks if she can take him to the magic pet market, as he wants to find a magical pet to increase his power. Evelyn agrees, noting that the market is nearby. In no time, they arrive. The market is bustling, with vendors loudly advertising their pets. Evelyn asks if Paul has a particular type of pet in mind. Paul mentions that he once tamed a Tempest wolf in Tempest Valley, but lost the chance to contract it after falling into a coma while fighting the demonic sun. He's hoping to find a Tempest wolf cub with wind elemental talents. Just then, a man named Liam approaches, saying he has exactly what our hero is looking for. Liam, a third-year student from the logistics house and a level 22 trainer, proudly says he raised a Tempest wolf cub himself. Evelyn explains that trainers are part of life skill classes and that Liam, as a Su Kang student, likely has higher quality pets than the vendors around. Liam tells them the cub is about 10 days old, and its mother is a silver-tier Tempest wolf. He used a skill to verify its talent and offers it to Paul for 60 points. The hero hesitates, asking if there are any gold-tier cubs available. Liam says not to hold his breath. They're extremely rare at the market. Liam offers to notify Paul if any gold-tier cubs become available, though they'd be much pricier. Paul decides to take a closer look at this cub. Evelyn points out something odd. The cub seems small and malnourished. Liam assures her that Tempest wolves are typically smaller than other large monsters, so their cubs are smaller as well. Paul decides to take it, saying there are no useless magic pets, only useless masters. He's confident in the cub's potential. Liam is thrilled and gives Paul a free magic pet contract scroll with the cub, all for 60 points. Paul contracts the Tempest Wolf cub and places it in his contract space, finding the process very convenient. Among the cubs, this one was the least impressive. Liam, relieved to have sold it, admits he was struggling to find a buyer for the cub in its condition. Paul's timing was lucky for him. The hero tries testing the cub's strength, hoping for promising results. To everyone's surprise, the cub transforms into a mighty Tempest Wolf. The crowd is astonished. Its dark purple aura indicates a legendary tier pet. How fortunate must someone be to find one here? Evelyn smiles, impressed by Paul's intuition. The cub, nourished by Paul, immediately returns to its original tier. Liam is in shock, realizing he unknowingly sold a legendary tier pet to a freshman for such a low price. Evelyn asks if Paul has named it yet. He decides to call the pet Gray. She laughs, teasing him for his lack of creativity, but admits the name does add a certain charm. Liam, realizing his mistake, demands an additional 1,500 points, claiming he accidentally sold the cub at silver tier price. If Paul doesn't agree, he says Paul can remove the contract and return the pet, and he'll refund him 300 points. He insists Paul make a quick decision. Other vendors laugh, pointing out that Liam should have checked the cub's tier more carefully if he didn't want it sold so easily. Paul scoffs, saying he's never heard of someone changing the price after a sale. He warns Liam to stop his nonsense and get lost. Trembling, Liam senses the threat of death from Paul's mere glare, stunned by the power a freshman can radiate. The guy backs off, saying it was all a misunderstanding and that Paul can keep the cub. Out Hero tells Liam to stay out of his way or face the consequences. Evelyn asks Paul if they can hang out and play with Gray sometime in the future, and Paul tells her she's welcome anytime. People at the market recognize Paul as the #1 freshman who even won a golden medal. Liam has been abusing his family's authority, but this time he crossed the line and hit someone he shouldn't have. Suddenly, his brother Logan shows up. Liam immediately pleads with Logan to get justice for him. Instead, Logan punches Liam in the face, calling him useless trash. He reminds Liam of the significance of a freshman being awarded a golden medal. Logan warns Liam that he's lucky Paul let him off the hook. He tells him to leave before embarrassing himself even more and to stay as far away as possible. Meanwhile, Paul spends time exploring Gray's abilities. As expected from a legendary tier Tempest Wolf cub, Gray can instinctively use wind powers even at such a young age. Someone suddenly knocks on Paul's door. With the luck potion still in effect, he hopes it's more good news. It turns out to be a messenger from the Snow Dragon Legion delivering the promised treasure, Paul's S-Class reward, the Frozen Lotus. After handing over the treasure, the messenger prepares to return to his duties. Paul asks him to send his thanks to the captain. Our hero is amazed by the Snow Dragon Legion's efficiency. It's been less than 3 days since he left Tempest Valley, and they've already delivered the treasure. Finally, Paul has the Frozen Lotus in his hands, its powerful energy radiating from the box. By forging it into a frozen pill, Paul knows he can solve Cindy's bloodline awakening crisis. He tries booking the pill-making process online, but no luck. It looks like he'll need to visit the pill department in person. Paul heads to the Way of the Pill and asks an assistant if Sir Michael Phelps is available to help him forge the pill. Instead, Michael's student Nancy informs Paul that her teacher is in a meeting. She offers to assist and asks about the pill he wants to make. Paul explains it's an S-Class frozen pill and shows her the Frozen Lotus along with the icicle grass. Nancy is stunned. She thought the guy was just a freshman and can't believe he has such rare treasures. Paul laughs it off, chalking it up to luck. Since he already has the required materials, all that's left is to pay the 800-point production fee. Nancy asks him to leave his contact info so they can update him when it's ready. Students around the university buzz with excitement about the recent discovery of creatures from another world. Many guilds and legions have been called back from the front lines. Looks like news about the invasion of other world creatures is spreading. Out of nowhere, Aurora walks up to Paul. He's surprised to see her in this class, and she reveals that her personal mentor is Housemaster Mr. Herbert. It turns out they'll be classmates from now on. Aurora asks Paul to look out for her. Paul smiles and asks her to do the same. Aurora jokes that someone as strong as Paul doesn't need her protection, but assures him she's there if he ever needs help. Miss Bennett enters the classroom and announces that she'll be teaching about monsters and intel this semester. Before starting the lecture, she confirms the rumors about large-scale invasions by otherworld creatures within the country's borders. Though these creatures aren't particularly strong, the government is taking their presence very seriously. Legions are on level 3 combat preparation, and resources for schools are being heavily increased. Students' resource allocations at Sukong will rise by 70%, and completing missions assigned by the school will now earn them even greater rewards. The school's 3 Realms Abyss mode will also be opened, but students will need to buy Abyss stones with points to unlock it. The announcement sparks gossip among the students. Grace steps in and tells everyone to focus. Regardless of how many resources they get, their priority should always be getting stronger. Paul notices that Miss Bennett seems much stronger than when they first met. The class begins, but nothing particularly exciting happens. During a break, some students discuss how they tried to beat the Goblin Dungeon boss yesterday but failed. The nightmare difficulty is just too brutal. With Paul now at level 19 and in possession of the Frozen Lotus, he doesn't need to risk returning to Tempest Valley. The Abyss-level Goblin Dungeon seems like the perfect place to farm experience. On his way to prepare, Paul runs into Evelyn in the hall and asks what brings her here. She says she's heard about the increased rewards for the school's 3 realms and wants to invite Paul to try it out with her. As luck would have it, Paul was planning to challenge the Abyss level and asks her opinion. Evelyn hesitates, saying Abyss level is way too hard for her. There's a big gap between her strength and Paul's, so she plans to stick to hard difficulty. Paul reassures her, saying it's no problem. He'll clear the Abyss level first, and then they can team up to challenge it together later. Evelyn smiles and makes him promise. She'll tackle the hard difficulty first and wishes him luck. Nearby, students whisper about Levi Jones. It's been ages since anyone from the Earth rank attempted a realm challenge. Apparently, breaking a dungeon record earns an achievement talent. It's no wonder Levi, a level 23 mage ranked 66 in Earth rank, rushed over here. Paul shrugs it off. He's more interested in challenging the Abyss realm. Other students mutter that attempting Abyss difficulty as a level 19 Saint Knight is outright reckless. Levi's presence seems to have stirred up confidence in some students, but for Paul, it's just another reason to keep moving forward. The hero selects the Abyss level challenge, and 400 points are automatically deducted from his account in exchange for Abyss magic stones. He's teleported to the Goblin Dungeon, where the monsters are far more vicious due to the increased difficulty. Looking around, Paul notices the place is in ruins. He wonders if the goblins have taken over and destroyed everything. Suddenly, goblins attack from behind, but Paul reacts quickly and blocks the assault. He thinks it's downright shameless for these creatures to ambush a 20-year-old like him. This wave of goblins is massive, and all of them are silver-tier enemies. Paul knows that powerful foes make for worthy challenges. With a smirk, he pulls out his hammer. In just a few powerful swings, he tears the goblins apart. It becomes clear that the real challenge lies in the sheer number of suicidal goblin grunts. Their relentless attacks can easily drain mana reserves. Paul decides to conserve his mana as much as possible so he can unleash his strongest skills when facing the boss. Using his Shining Phantom Slash, Paul swings his weapon at an incredible speed, creating a dazzling flurry of light slashes that devastate the goblin horde. Finally, the last goblin falls. Paul gains 11,236 experience points. Even with such a massive haul of experience, leveling up becomes slower as Paul progresses. He's still far from reaching level 20. He hopes the boss fight will grant him enough rewards to speed up his leveling. In the next room, Paul encounters the Goblin King, who welcomes him with a boastful roar, calling it the land of his death. The hero finds the creature noisy and unimpressive. The Goblin King swings its massive hammer, but Paul narrowly dodges the attack with quick reflexes. The boss is strong, a clear strength type, but its speed is nothing to underestimate either. The Goblin King's dominant body ability blocks physical attacks and activates shields that partially reflect damage. Realizing that physical attacks won't cut it, Paul binds the Goblin King with chains, immobilizing it completely. With its body paralyzed, the king can no longer fight back. The Goblin King's magic resistance turns out to be surprisingly low. Paul takes the opportunity to bombard it with a special gift of magic attacks. The battle ends with a final hit powered by holy energy. For an Abyss-level realm boss, Paul finds the Goblin King disappointingly weak. He's still amazed at how much mana he conserved. He had been preparing to unleash his strongest skills but didn't even need to use them. His effort pays off. Breaking the Abyss-level map's record earns him a new Grade A talent, Rapid Casting. With this talent, his power grows even further. As Paul heads back, he can't help but feel a little disappointed. He was so close to reaching level 20. Still, with the points he's earned, he's already planning to take Evelyn on another Abyss-level run. Word spreads quickly and students are stunned. No one has ever cleared the Abyss-level realm before. Most of them would have been wiped out by hundreds of silver-tier goblins. Fortunately, Evelyn chose the hard difficulty and passed without trouble. Now she's anxiously waiting to see if Paul succeeds. The students hear rumors about a level 19 Saint Knight named Paul, who not only cleared the Abyss-level realm but set a new record. Suddenly, the realm leaderboard updates, confirming that Paul has broken the Abyss-level record. It's hard for the students to believe someone has finally succeeded. Many haven't even heard of Paul since he's just a freshman. They can't wrap their heads around how he managed to defeat the level 24 legendary Goblin King. Some students are confident that Levi Jones, who entered the realm later, will reclaim the record and push Paul down the rankings. But when Levi returns, he looks completely devastated. The Abyss-level realm proved too hard for him. He even lost several pieces of golden grade equipment and still failed. Levi is confused about all the buzz surrounding this so-called freshman. His friend informs him that Paul, the freshman who entered before Levi, cleared the Abyss level in just 10 minutes and 56 seconds, setting the new record. Levi is speechless. A freshman beat him? Paul, meanwhile, calmly returns from the realm. Levi refuses to believe it. There's no way he could lose to a freshman. He suspects Paul cheated and decides to investigate. Levi approaches our hero and introduces himself, but Paul barely acknowledges him, brushing past with the excuse of having other matters to attend to. Our hero walks over to Evelyn, who's practically glowing with excitement over his victory. Evelyn admits she struggled to pass the hard difficulty and feels like it's getting harder and harder to keep up with Paul. The hero reassures her, telling her not to worry. He explains that fighting the Goblin King is pretty simple and promises to share all his tips. With plenty of points to spare, he offers to take her on a few more attempts. Onlookers are shocked. Paul just returned and is already planning to re-enter the Abyss-level realm like it's his personal training ground. Levi's friend points out that Paul nearly cleared the realm again earlier, so it makes sense he'd want to try another run. Levi, however, is too discouraged by his failure. He decides not to challenge the Abyss-level realm again. Paul and Evelyn are already in the dungeon. Paul remarks that this is their second time working together, reminiscing about their adventure in Tempest Valley like it was just yesterday. Evelyn feels awkward remembering that moment when the demons had her cornered. It was Paul's bravery that saved her from choosing self-destruction and despair. Laughing, the hero says it was an honor to save her. He considers that rescue to be just the start of their journey with many more adventures ahead. The goblins charge toward them. The Abyss-level difficulty doesn't disappoint. These monsters have incredibly high stats. Paul notes that while their level seems impressive, they're fragile and rely on overwhelming numbers. He assures Evelyn they can handle this wave with ease. He advises Evelyn to keep an eye on her skill consumption. They'll each guard one side to prevent the goblins from flanking them. Paul activates Angel's buffs for both himself and Evelyn. Taking the lead, he swings his hammer at the goblins. Evelyn marvels at how effective the buffs are, noting that her base stats have increased by a quarter, nearly doubling her attack power. Evelyn uses Dark Slash, infusing her blade with dark elemental power to deal immense damage to the enemies. Thanks to Paul's buffs, the silver-tier goblins are easily dispatched like cutting grass. The system congratulates Evelyn on clearing the goblin horde. Excited by their success, Evelyn says this is fun and suggests they keep going. Suddenly, the Goblin King appears, declaring that the humans should prepare to die. Evelyn, nervous about the Abyss-level boss, asks how Paul managed to pass this realm before. He explains that while the Goblin King seems powerful, its spell resistance is weak. A strong spell can take it down easily. Evelyn asks Paul to let her take the lead this time. Inspired, she decides to tap into the demonic power of her succubus bloodline. Using Demonic Blade, she unleashes a devastating slash. The demonic energy within the attack explodes on impact, dealing extra dark element damage. The Goblin King laughs, acknowledging that the demonic energy in Evelyn's skill has significantly increased its strength. The king releases a shockwave that shakes the ground, causing vibrations that might induce dizziness. Paul grows concerned for Evelyn. She reassures Paul that she's fine. However, she blames herself for losing control of the demonic power, allowing the Goblin King to absorb it and grow stronger. Paul tells her not to blame herself. He decides to test whether his earlier strategies will still work against the enhanced boss. He uses Punishment of Light, but the skill's effect is much weaker than before. The Goblin King's spell resistance seems to have increased dramatically. Finding the situation tricky, Paul tells Evelyn that if they can't defeat the boss, she should crush the Abyss Stone to escape. He reminds her that it's just a realm challenge and there's no need to worry. Evelyn, still blaming herself, grows anxious, unsure of what to do next. Suddenly, her alter ego appears, agreeing that it's Evelyn's weakness that caused this mess. If she could fully control the demonic power of her succubus bloodline, Paul wouldn't be in this predicament. Evelyn's alter ego urges her to release her true strength, saying that only by becoming stronger can she truly support Paul. Meanwhile, Paul continues struggling with the Goblin King. He resolves to use his angel physique to keep Evelyn safe. But then he senses an overwhelming dark power emanating from her as she begins stealing the Goblin King's royal power. Transforming into a new form, Evelyn asks Paul to leave the Goblin King to her. The Goblin King can no longer absorb her demonic power. Instead, it's being consumed and weakening him. Evelyn taunts the Goblin King, calling this just an appetizer. She absorbs even more of the Goblin King's demonic power. Disgusted, she remarks how vile it feels. Once she's gathered enough power, Evelyn delivers the final blow, defeating the boss. The system congratulates Evelyn for defeating the boss. She earns 15 free stat points and over 20,000 experience. With a sly smile, she proudly boasts about finally taking down that annoying monster. Evelyn approaches Paul, puffing out her chest confidently, and suggests they keep going. She wonders why he's so quiet. Teasingly, she places his hand on her leg, asking if he likes it. Paul quickly steps back, utterly confused, and questions if she's really Evelyn. At that moment, her confident demeanor collapses and she starts stumbling over excuses. Evelyn reverts to her usual self, explaining that her behavior was due to the demonic power in her succubus bloodline. Paul, relieved, says he thought she might have been possessed by a demon. Embarrassed, Evelyn insists that's impossible. Paul moves on, suggesting they team up and take on the challenge a few more times. He's confident that Evelyn will be able to solo the abyss-level realm once she gets comfortable with her demonic powers. Besides, the Goblin King is an old acquaintance, so Paul figures he'll understand their training. Students in this realm need to defeat the boss, but there's a lot to consider if they want to maximize their rewards. The abyss-level realm is brutal, and so far only one monstrous freshman has managed to clear it. When that same student clears it again, even faster this time, everyone is left stunned. Elites truly push themselves harder than anyone else. Suddenly, Evelyn sets a new record. People are shocked. Not only has Paul mastered Abyss difficulty, but now Evelyn has too. One guy finally understands what Levi meant about the crushing feeling of being outclassed by geniuses. Evelyn hears that the Elemental House is hosting a fireworks show for the freshmen later and suggests they check it out when they're done. As expected from the Elemental House, even their streetlights run on magic. The duo spent so long farming the realm that night falls without them noticing. Evelyn credits Paul for her success, thanking him for helping her gain so much from the abyss-level realm. Paul brushes it off, saying he only gave her a nudge. As they walk further, they come across a statue of a mage, known as the Protective Deity, who once single-handedly defended against countless otherworld legions. His legendary deeds were celebrated, but during his final battle, a demon lord attacked him from behind. The mage's life was lost, his soul completely destroyed, making resurrection impossible. Truly a hero worthy of remembrance. Curious, Paul asks Evelyn to teach him more about the Dark Ages. Evelyn says they have to start with the Golden Age 80 years ago in the year 2544, when a wave of talented classes rose to prominence. This era was called the Golden Age, with legends like the Tempest Sword and the Heat Blade emerging. These heroes are still fighting on the front lines. Just as people began to strike back against the otherworldly invaders, the Dark Age descended, bringing the most intense invasion in history. The elites of the Golden Age sacrificed themselves to repel the invaders. After 30 years of bloody battles and countless losses, humanity finally earned a fragile peace. Now, with new invasions starting again, Evelyn can't help but feel uneasy. Paul places a reassuring hand on her forehead, explaining that this time the invaders only slipped through mid-sized dimensional cracks. They're not as strong, and humanity is far more prepared now. Even if darkness falls again, it's the invaders who will be unlucky. Evelyn nods, agreeing that humanity has grown strong and is ready to face whatever comes. Meanwhile, the fireworks show is beginning. Evelyn grabs Paul's hand, suggesting they find a better spot to watch. Later, Paul heads home. Unfortunately, Grace isn't around, so he can't use the military teleportation array. After getting used to teleportation, trains feel a bit strange, but at least he has the frozen pill now. Cindy's illness won't be a problem anymore. Back home, Cindy asks Sister Leah why her big brother isn't here yet. Leah reassures her that Paul just called and will be home soon. Right then, Paul steps into the room announcing his return. Cindy leaps into his arms with excitement. Paul, who had been worried about her condition, relaxes when he sees how lively she is. Leah asks how long Paul plans to stay. He mentions it's just 3 or 4 days since his main focus is completing his sister's final treatment. Cindy, hopeful, wonders if her brother brought any gifts for his adorable sister. Paul reveals he did. An abyss-level realm reward just for her. It's a golden-grade horn that can summon a bear monster ghost to protect her. Cindy beams with excitement. It's amazing, exactly what she expected from her brother. Paul jokes that once she's cured, she might even become as powerful as he is. Meanwhile, Secretary John arrives at the house with Madame Davis. John mentions he contacted Riley last night and she came immediately. She says Paul's invitations aren't something to take lightly. Riley congratulates Paul on not just finding the frozen lotus, but forging it into an even more effective frost pill. John, stunned, remarks on the rarity and value of S-grade pills, which are priceless treasures. Paul credits a tertiary turn-class pill master, recommended by his teacher, for the success. He suggests they shouldn't waste any time and should start Cindy's treatment right away. Cindy looks nervous and questions if it's really okay to proceed. Paul reassures her that she just needs to take the pill. Once she does, her frost bloodline will awaken and the power of frost will no longer harm her. Cindy stands in the center of the formation, declaring she's ready. Paul begins by casting buffs on her. Riley is awestruck by the powerful holy light Paul wields, admitting that even as a secondary-turned priest, her own light pales in comparison. Once the buffs are complete, Priestess Davis activates the formation. Cindy takes the frost pill, bracing herself. Suddenly, her frost energy bursts out, and Leah wonders if something's wrong. Paul remains calm, assuring everyone he can handle it with his sacred flame and halo. After Cindy consumes the frost pill, our hero is confident this will be the last frost burst she'll experience. The hardest step is complete. Now, all they need to do is wait patiently for Cindy's bloodline awakening to finish. The power surging within her seems pure, signaling that her frost bloodline is fully activated. Cindy approaches Paul and he asks how she feels. She says it feels like her illness is completely gone. Paul suggests she check her status to confirm any changes. Cindy discovers her frost bloodline has granted her a talent to control the ice element, giving her complete mastery over it. Paul notes that bloodline awakenings don't usually come with talents, but Cindy's rare frost bloodline is an exception. Both siblings reflect on the benefits of their frost lineage. Paul wonders if their ancestors included a powerful frost wielder, but even so, their family must have fallen far behind after past hardships. Even though Cindy successfully awakened her frost bloodline, Paul asks Riley to double-check her condition just in case. John mentions that the mayor is taking Cindy's awakening seriously and has arranged another batch of cultivation resources for Paul. The hero thanks him, admitting he'll soon need to return to school and will rely on the secretary to look after Cindy. Paul asks his sister if she's thought about what class she'd like to pursue in the future. Without hesitation, she says mage. Paul agrees the class suits her. He promises to find her a hidden mage class conversion book once she reaches level 10. Cindy seems excited but suddenly mentions she can feel a dark power awakening within her. It seems like it won't be long before both their powers are fully unleashed. Riley looks concerned, scanning the girl again. No wonder there's a trace of dark power. Paul, annoyed, realizes Cindy is playing around and decides to show her the true potential of frost. John observes Cindy's confidence and thinks she'll make an excellent mage, while Leah laughs. pointing out this isn't her usual behavior. Cindy smirks, summoning ice spirits and freezing everything in her way. Paul blocks her attacks effortlessly, noting her body seems fully recovered. Now they can start planning her cultivation schedule. Suddenly, Cindy clutches her chest, wincing. It seems like her frost powers are flaring up again, making her cultivation with Paul impossible for now. She sighs, complaining about how exhausting cultivation is, but admits there's no other choice. She jokingly tells Paul that saving the world is his job. The hero introduces Gray, a magical pet he just contracted. He leaves Gray to accompany Cindy for the next few days, but warns her not to get outshined by the little creature. Cindy finds Gray adorable and promises to cultivate hard with him by her side. Paul jokes about remembering Gray's sacrifices, but Cindy counters by offering to sign a contract of darkness to officially become his companion. A few days later, Paul feels ready to return to school without worries. He hopes a teleportation formation will be built soon to make visits easier. On his way back, he unexpectedly runs into Miss Bennett. Curious, he asks why she's here. Grace explains that the National Freshman Exchange competition is starting soon, and she's here to confirm the team roster with him. As the first-place winner of the freshman competition, Paul is naturally assigned the role of team leader, tasked with assembling a team. Grace shows him a list of the top 10 freshmen, excluding himself, and tells him to choose 4 teammates. Paul immediately picks the top 4, but Grace teases him for being too predictable. She reminds him that in team matches, stamina conservation is crucial, which is why a priest's healing support is typically essential. While Paul can cast buffs, his recovery skills aren't quite as effective as a priest's. Based on past competitions, having a priest is highly advisable. Paul shrugs off her concerns, confident that his team can finish matches so quickly that recovery won't be necessary. He's set on winning both the team and individual brackets. Grace sighs, acknowledging his overwhelming strength. With him on the team, they might genuinely not need a priest and could dominate the competition. Trusting his confidence, Grace decides to submit the roster to Mr. Herbert. Paul assures her victory is inevitable. Grace asks if Paul has taken care of his sister's bloodline awakening, and he confirms, crediting her advice about the frozen lotus. The hero then inquires if she knows where to find a hidden class conversion book. Grace guesses it's for Cindy, and Paul nods. He feels a growing urgency as he learns about otherworldly monsters breaching mid-sized cracks. He's determined to give Cindy the strength to defend herself as soon as possible. Grace smiles, admiring his thoughtfulness. She hints that the school's net has the book, but warns it won't be easy to obtain. Before leaving for other matters, Grace encourages Paul to focus on the upcoming competition. The hero puzzles over her cryptic words, but decides to check the requirements for buying the book. He finds out that to purchase the hidden class conversion book, a student must be at least level 25 and rank in either the top 10 of Earth rank or the top 100 of Heaven rank. The cheapest book costs 20,000 points. Paul realizes it'll take time to gather the resources, but resolves to achieve his goal within 6 months. Suddenly, a system notification announces a new achievement mission tied to the National Freshman Competition. Rewards will depend on the team's performance. Recalling the incredible power boosts from previous missions, Paul feels motivated to give it his all for maximum rewards. In the faculty meeting room, the housemasters discuss Paul's submitted team roster. The team consists of Paul, Spiritual Swordsman Evelyn, Spiritual Taoist Aurora, Mage Kate, and Warrior Mandy. Some housemasters express concerns about the lack of a priest, pointing out the reduced margin for error. However, Mr. Holt sees no problem with the lineup. With Paul's abilities, he believes the team is strong enough without a healer. Having personally worked with Paul on bloodline forging techniques, Mr. Holt knows the extent of Paul's power. He's confident Paul could solo the team matches if needed. Mr. Hammond agrees, highlighting Paul's versatility as a buffer, defender, and attacker all in one. Madame Khan supports the decision, emphasizing that leveraging Paul's strengths is a sound strategy. With consensus reached, Mr. Herbert finalizes the decision, hoping Paul will exceed their expectations in the competition. Madame Khan tasks Mr. Herbert with overseeing the team's training, noting their need to build teamwork despite their individual strength. Mr. Herbert eagerly accepts, planning to have Miss Bennett gather the team at the War House in 3 days. During Paul's intense training, he receives a message. It's from Mr. Hawkins, who has arranged a one-on-one lesson for him. This marks Paul's first lesson as Hawkins's disciple, and he hopes to learn new skills. But first, he needs to decide how to spend today's rewards. Paul reflects on how completing daily missions easily earns him skill and stat points, keeping him far ahead of his peers. The hero heads to meet his teacher but gets surrounded by level 23 forest wolves. He asks if he should eliminate them. Mr. Hawkins reassures him that there's no need, as this is the Edge Forest, a private training ground owned by the guild he founded. Paul is stunned to learn there are even dragons here. Tony explains that a level 62 legendary grade dragon, the magic pet of the hero's senior brother, guards the forest to deter monsters. Paul can't fathom how strong his senior must be if his pet is already this powerful. Mr. Hawkins reveals that Paul's senior is currently level 64, equal to him in strength, with combat abilities that surpass even Tony's. This is why the headmaster entrusted the Tian Yu Guild to Paul's senior without hesitation, leaving Paul in awe of his senior's talent at only 30 years old. Mr. Hawkins praises Paul as the most talented student he has ever seen, encouraging him to surpass his senior brother. The teacher then begins the lesson, instructing Paul to observe closely as he demonstrates the special skill, Heart Shield. The sheer destructive power of the shield amazes Paul, who attributes it to the strength of tertiary-turned classes. Mr. Hawkins explains that the first skill he will teach our hero is the Holy Light Heart Shield. Paul learns that he must connect his consciousness to the skill book and use skill points to acquire it. The skill creates two shields that converge, causing a massive explosion. Paul is surprised to discover it's a Saint Knight legacy skill, wondering how Mr. Hawkins knows such techniques. Tony reveals that the skill was created by his grandmaster, a tertiary-turned Saint Knight, and passed down to Mr. Hawkins, who now teaches it to Paul. With the skill learned, Mr. Hawkins asks Paul to demonstrate it. The hero successfully creates an explosive heart shield, impressing everyone with his mastery at level 1. Mr. Hawkins explains the skill's purpose. It's ideal for team matches, allowing Paul to split the battlefield and restrict enemy movements. To give Paul practical combat experience, the Dragon Glalong orders nearby monsters to attack him. Mr. Hawkins says the experience Paul gains will depend on how many monsters he defeats. The hero waits as the monsters close in on him. He activates all his holy buffs, ready to face the beasts. Using both holy and frost powers, Paul launches a devastating attack, yielding excellent results. After a while, Paul grows tired and sighs in exhaustion. Mr. Hawkins asks if he used all his strength. Tony didn't expect Paul to deplete all his stamina and mana. Mr. Hawkins questions how he'd handle more monsters. Paul confidently replies that with his teacher present, he isn't worried, and he drinks a healing potion, enjoying the experience farming. With the experience gained, our hero levels up the Holy Light Heart Shield. The skill's destructive power increases significantly, reaching level 2. Mr. Hawkins is impressed, noting he expected Paul to defeat around 100 monsters, but the guy managed to take down nearly 400. Mr. Hawkins reminds Paul to stay composed, especially since his team won't have a priest during the exchange competition. The hero assures his teacher that there's no need to worry. First place is guaranteed with him leading the team. The Phoenix team, along with other students, is at the Tempest Forest rest station when they hear that the National Freshman Exchange Competition is about to start. A total of 218 high schools from across the country are participating, and the list of competitors has just been released. Everyone is shocked to see that Sukong University doesn't have a priest on their team. Teams without a priest are usually associated with smaller, less prominent schools. The Phoenix team knows this too. Paul, the captain, and Evelyn, the vice-captain, are confident in their strategy. Meanwhile, some girls laugh at online comments criticizing their team formation. One comment insists they'll definitely lose without a priest, which many find hilarious. Clearly, these people have no idea how powerful Paul really is. Senior Sue remains calm and confident. She knows that with Paul leading the team, not having a priest won't make much difference. She's certain they'll claim the championship this year. Meanwhile, the hero completes the level 10 combat trial in 6 minutes and 12 seconds. The training bots in the practice room have become far too easy for him since he hit level 22. However, the effects of his training seem to be waning. It's clear that Paul might need to consult Teacher Grace for some advice. Just then, his phone rings. Miss Bennett informs him that Mr. Herbert's special training will begin today and instructs him to head to the Warhouse Court immediately. This is great news. Paul's efforts over the past few days are finally paying off. The students are buzzing with excitement about the competition. Su Kong University has won the national exchange competition for 4 years in a row. As the hero approaches the meeting room, he overhears students expressing their confidence that with him on their side, victory is almost guaranteed. Paul enters the room, facing his teachers and teammates, and apologizes for arriving late. Mr. Herbert reassures him and gets straight to the point. It's time to introduce Paul's new teammates. First up is Mandy, a level 18 warrior. Next is Kate, a level 18 mage. Mr. Herbert glances at Paul's stats and remarks on how quickly he's leveled up under Headmaster Hawkins's guidance. With time running short, the housemaster quickly explains the plan. To prepare for the competition, Mr. Herbert will personally train the team. Their training will focus on 3 key aspects: team matches, individual matches, and survival rounds. Today's session is all about improving their coordination and combat skills as a team. Later, they'll tackle the Abyss-level Goblin Dungeon Realm as a party. The school has promised to cover all point expenses for the challenge. It's no surprise now why Miss Bennett pushed Mandy and Kate to reach level 18. It was all part of the preparation for this Abyss-level challenge. The team is strong, and as a unit, they could dominate the Abyss-level realm. Paul could probably solo it, so with the added strength of 4 skilled teammates, failure isn't an option. Moments later, the team is geared up and ready to face the Abyss-level challenge. Since it's their first time working together, Paul takes charge of assigning roles. Mandy will focus on defense and drawing aggro. Evelyn and Kate will handle physical and magical damage, while Paul and Aurora will support from the back and finish off any stragglers. With everything settled, the goblins begin to emerge. Mandy leads the charge, landing a powerful punch. Her skill effects are 40% stronger than before, thanks to Paul's buffs. She's amazed at how much the captain's support has enhanced her abilities. Kate is equally stunned by Paul's incredible casting speed. He casts 3 buffs in under a second, something even a professional mage like her struggles to do. Kate unleashes her sound magic destruction while Evelyn slashes through the goblins with precision. Suddenly, arrows fly toward Evelyn, but Mandy reacts just in time, activating her shield. It's surprising to see goblin archers, something none of them expected. They realize the goblins must have upgraded their tactics because of the stronger challengers. Paul steps in using his punishment of light to target the monsters. He takes out the annoying enemies, but reminds the team that the goal of this challenge is to improve their coordination, not to fight solo. Seeing everyone working hard, Aurora refuses to hold back. She throws her talismans, causing a massive explosion that decimates the goblins. Watching from the sidelines, Mr. Herbert and Grace closely analyze the match. They note that Paul's casting speed has improved significantly since the freshman competition, with some skills now being instantaneous. Grace is impressed by the hero's rapid growth, recalling how he brought Evelyn to challenge the Abyss-level realm and claimed the top spots as soon as the school year began. Smirking, Mr. Herbert reveals that he intentionally increased the challenge difficulty to test Paul's limits. Kate unleashes her wind magic tornado, signaling Mandy to finish off the goblins. Mandy delivers her air-cracking kick, taking out most of the monsters in a single move. With Paul's buffs boosting her strength, stomping goblins feels almost too easy. It's hard for the team to believe how quickly they wiped out the goblins. Kate's elemental confirms that no goblins are left in the area. Paul chuckles, reminding them that this was just the warm-up. The real challenge, the boss battle, is next, and they can't let their guard down. Mandy confidently declares there's nothing to fear, especially with Paul's buffs nearly doubling her strength. With his help, this realm feels like a cakewalk. Aurora agrees, joking that Paul could probably clear the realm on his own. Paul feels uneasy. They're setting up too many flags for disaster. The team finally approaches the room where the final boss should be waiting. Paul senses something off, but decides to step inside first. Inside, the second Goblin King awaits, a legendary grade level 25 boss. The Goblin King mocks the team, claiming he prepared a special welcome for them. He summons a massive fireball, its sheer power shocking the group. Mandy tries to block it with her shield, but the fireball's strength is overwhelming. In moments, her shield shatters completely. Even with Paul's buffs, she struggles against what seems to be a basic attack. The Goblin King sneers, promising to turn the team into ashes. He's been preparing for this showdown for a long time. Paul orders the team to fall back and uses the power of the forest to block the boss's attack. Kate warns him to be cautious. This fireball isn't ordinary. Paul agrees it's tricky. This boss is far stronger than the last one he defeated. Aurora steps forward, asking for a chance to lead the fight. She throws her talismans, mutters an incantation, and triggers an explosion. The attack has no effect. The Goblin King mocks their efforts, unimpressed. Then Kate decides to try her attack spells. She wants the monster to take a hit from her, too. Meanwhile, Evelyn uses her demonic blade, too. But unfortunately, that is just nothing for such a powerful monster. Girls' attacks don't have any effect at all. Kate begins to despair, convinced they can't win. But Paul tells them not to worry since he's still here. With the holy power, he scatters the goblin's attack. Mandy asks for another chance to fight up close. Paul denies her, explaining that a level 25 legendary boss is beyond their current abilities. He insists they leave the rest to him. Using his eyes of true sight, Paul analyzes the Goblin King. The boss is not only one level higher than the previous one, but its stats are also doubled. Paul realizes he can match this power using his S+ grade bloodline secret technique. This is clearly a special test set by Mr. Herbert. Smiling, Paul decides to reveal his true power, the Angel Divine Physique. Grace expresses concern about the boss's high difficulty, wondering if such a challenge is even necessary. Mr. Herbert explains that while their team is strong, other universities have their own prodigies. He believes the team needs to experience defeat to prepare for the exchange competition against schools like Madu and Qingjing. So Mr. Herbert needs them to suffer a loss in order to understand the cruelty of the competition. Grace smiles, saying the housemaster underestimates Paul. Mr. Herbert hopes the hero can prove him wrong. The Goblin King mocks Paul's transformation into a shiny bird, taunting him to use all his tricks. Paul obliges, launching a shining pulse attack. Enraged, the Goblin King retaliates with his Apocalypse meteor fire, but Paul dodges effortlessly. Aurora is stunned by Paul's power, realizing they were never on the same level. She asks Evelyn if Paul has ever used this form before. Evelyn, equally surprised, admits it's her first time seeing it. The Goblin King scoffs, claiming Paul's transformation won't make a difference. Paul counters by binding the monster with a holy light chain. He follows up with a Spear of Victory and finishes with a light flame storm. As if that wasn't enough, Paul uses lightning binding, leaving the Goblin King completely subdued. The boss admits defeat, apologizing for being unworthy as an opponent. Paul shrugs, disappointed he couldn't unleash his ultimate move, the Hand of God. He decides to save it for another time. With the Goblin King still barely alive, Paul finishes it off with a final strike. Mr. Herbert is speechless. The boss was designed to challenge even level 26 players, yet Paul made it look easy. The housemaster asks Miss Bennett if she has Paul's recent training data. Miss Bennett confirms that Paul completed the level 10 combat form challenge in just over 6 minutes earlier that day. She and Mr. Hawkins had no doubts about Paul's abilities, but it's satisfying to see him prove himself directly. The system congratulates the team for clearing the Abyss-level realm in 21 minutes and 16 seconds. Kate is shocked when she sees the reward, 8,000 experience points for each of them. Mandy also receives 8,000 experience points, marveling that one run through the Abyss-level realm is worth more than a week of wild training. Paul, having contributed the most, earns 11,000 experience points, along with 10 free stat points and 10 skill points. At this rate, he'll level up soon. Evelyn checks on Paul, asking if he's hurt. He assures her he's fine, though the battle drained him. The team decides to check out the loot from the Goblin King. Among the drops are a Staff of Flame, a Shield of Fire Spirit, and a Ring of Flame Magic. The girls are amazed. The loot is all golden-grade equipment, making this a lucky haul. Looks like they're lucky this time. Paul asks if anyone needs any of these 3 pieces of equipment. Mandy shakes her head, explaining the level requirements are too high. Kate also declines, saying fire element items don't suit her magic. Evelyn adds that the equipment doesn't match her or Aurora's classes. Since Paul was the MVP, they suggest he keep the items. Paul reluctantly agrees but offers to auction them on the school network, converting the points and distributing them equally among the team. Mandy protests, insisting Paul should keep at least 70% of the proceeds since they couldn't have cleared the realm without him. Aurora agrees, admitting Paul was the key to their victory while she barely contributed. Our hero brushes it off, saying an even split is fair and ensures no one has to worry about points for a while. Evelyn smiles, acknowledging Paul's generosity, though she points out he hardly needs more points. She reminds the group that their goal isn't just to win the championship but to uphold their school's honor. Inspired, the girls promise to train harder and give their all in the competition. Paul is satisfied with their determination, confident they'll shine at the exchange competition. The team heads back to the lobby. Mr. Herbert and Grace congratulate them for successfully completing the specially designed Abyss-level realm. The housemaster praises their performance, saying they far exceeded his expectations. Paul's abilities in particular were a pleasant surprise. The hero modestly responds that he only did what was necessary. Mr. Herbert asks Paul about aiming for first place in the exchange competition. Paul confidently replies that they'll win. The housemaster is pleased, noting that confidence is essential for becoming champions. The teachers plan to give Paul a supporting role in the early matches to conceal his true strength, saving his full power for the critical moments. If they do that, the chances of getting first place will be much higher. Grace agrees, saying it's time for the competition to see just how strong Paul really is. Mr. Herbert notes that even among geniuses, there are levels and the team's coordination still needs improvement. Grace says that their teamwork still needs improvement. More practice is necessary in that area. Mr. Herbert offers to begin specialized training aimed at Guy's weakness from tomorrow on. For now, though, he tells them to rest, but hints there are disciplinary measures prepared to keep them motivated. Paul, confused, asks what these measures are, but Grace just laughs and walks away, leaving it a mystery. If that's the case, Paul suggests they all train together to prepare for the exchange competition. Outside the realm portal, other students discuss how tough the nightmare-level goblin realm is. They can't even imagine the difficulty of the abyss level. Their conversation is interrupted by Kate, who casually suggests her team could complete it in under 10 minutes. She explains they've been training together for so long, and with Paul's buffs, it's entirely possible. She adds that the housemaster gave her a few pointers the day before, boosting her confidence even more. The onlookers are stunned, realizing Paul's team has turned the abyss level into a speedrunning challenge. They're shocked that these guys will represent their school in the National Freshman Exchange Competition. They recall that their team's highest level was only 19, while Paul's team has a minimum level of 20. It's unbelievable. A system message confirms Paul White holds the record for the fastest clear time of the abyss-level realm. Meanwhile, Paul and the girls dive into the dungeon again, facing the Goblin King's apocalypse meteor fire. This time, Mandy is ready. With the lecturer's guidance, she's gained enough strength to defend against the attack. But a giant goblin head looms over her, taunting that her small improvement means nothing. Paul tells Mandy to fall back and counters the goblin's strike with a powerful punch, injuring its arm. The Goblin King roars in pain, clutching his arm. Paul praises Mandy for blocking the first attack on her own, then suggests they work together to bring the boss down. Furious, the Goblin King vows to kill every human present. Paul binds the boss with holy chains, forcing it to feel pain for the first time. Aurora follows up with her Heaven Lockdown Forbidden spell, targeting the weakened boss. Kate unleashes Thunderfall, an electric magic attack she learned from Miss Bennett. Evelyn lands the final blow, slashing through the Goblin King with her demonic blade. The system congratulates the team for clearing the abyss-level realm in 8 minutes and 36 seconds. Mr. Herbert praises their performance, impressed they broke the 9-minute mark. Even the housemaster has no criticism this time. Paul is surprised to see Mr. Herbert present. The housemaster explains he's here to announce the date for the exchange competition. The competition is set for 1 week from now, and the team will head to Qingjing University tomorrow to prepare. The team is excited to finally prove themselves after all their hard work. Paul, in particular, looks forward to sparring against the best talents from other schools. The endless realm battles had begun to bore him, and this is his chance to shine. To ensure everyone's safety, Mr. Herbert takes them through the school's exclusive teleportation point. They head straight to the location of the exchange competition at Qingjing University. The housemasters and Mr. Hawkins are already there to meet them. The headmaster expresses his gratitude to Mr. Herbert for all his hard work. As elites among the freshmen, they carry the pride and glory of their school on their shoulders. Sukang University has won the championship 4 years in a row. Now everyone is eager to see if these heroes will secure a 5th consecutive victory. Mr. Hawkins asks Mr. Holt to activate the teleportation formation. The teleportation portal lights up as Mr. Hawkins wishes the team a safe journey. In just a moment, the team and their teachers arrive at Qingjing University. Paul is shocked because Miss Bennett once said the distance between Sukang and Qingjing schools is over 2 million kilometers. Grace explains it's all thanks to Mr. Holt's teleportation magic. Otherwise, the journey would have taken several days by train. Only tertiary awakened mages can use such long-distance teleportation formations. Mr. Aaron Chen, a tertiary awakened mechanist from Qingjing, warmly welcomes the team, saying it's an honor to have them here. Mr. Herbert smiles, happy to see an old friend, and shakes his hand. Mr. Chen comments that the students Mr. Herbert brought look promising this year. Mr. Herbert replies that he's heard Qingjing's freshmen are also quite strong. The two agree the students will soon prove their strength in the competition. A few reminders are given. The opening ceremony of the exchange competition is on the 10th, and the matches will begin shortly after. After nearly a month of training, Paul's team has reached their peak in coordination. Since the teachers won't push for more training, Mr. Herbert advises them to relax. However, with many tourists entering Qingjing City recently, Mr. Herbert warns them to be cautious, as spies from other races might be present. Events like these often attract demons and other threats targeting human geniuses. That's all for today. The students can have some fun for the next few days, but must prioritize their safety. Later in the dorm, the camera orb offers Paul assistance, but he doesn't need it. Still, he finds Qingjing University's services refreshingly modern. With some free time, Paul finally has a chance to use the experience he's been saving up. He sighs, realizing he's still far from reaching level 24. Most of Paul's skills are still at grades C and B. Once he reaches secondary awakening, he'll be able to learn at least B+ grade Saint Knight skills. He even dreams of mastering the A+ grade skill, Jewel of Apocalypse. The Jewel of Light enhances allies, while the Jewel of Darkness unleashes devastating attacks on enemies. As for tertiary awakening, that's still a distant goal. For now, Paul decides to focus on completing the mission system. Soon, China's 157th National Freshman Exchange Competition begins. The first team introduced is last year's champion, Sukang University. The crowd cheers enthusiastically for them. It's no surprise, the National Exchange Competition truly feels grand. Evelyn notes that this is just the opening ceremony. The audience will likely double when it's time for the finals. Next up are Sukang University's first-round opponents, Rongyang University. Rongyang's team feels crushed by their bad luck in facing Sukang right away. They resign themselves to becoming stepping stones. Their team leader, Peter, insists they shouldn't give up. After all, they were in the top 30 last year and can still put up a fight. The crowd murmurs in awe about Sukang's team having a level 23 Saint Knight. That's simply overwhelming. Speculations fly about how Rongyang will likely lose, and everyone wonders how many of Sukang's hidden strategies they might force into play. Peter admits Sukang's team has some powerful tricks, but he believes that levels alone don't determine victory in a competition like this. Both teams take their positions as the contest field is prepared and the defensive barrier is activated. The system counts down and the battle begins. Rongyang starts focusing their mental energy, but Peter stops them, urging defense first to gauge Sukang's strength. Suddenly, a wave of holy power floods the field. It's Paul casting a series of buffs for his teammates. In just seconds, he casts multiple buffs. As expected of Sukang's captain, Saint Knight Paul White, Mr. Chen observes that Paul's buffs have amplified his team's strength by nearly 50%. Mr. Herbert explains that as a hidden class, the Saint Knight excels in large-scale buffs, making Paul invaluable in team battles. Fortunately, Rongyang has their own trump cards. Otherwise, Paul alone would have overwhelmed them. Now it's time to see if their countermeasures are effective. Rongyang's team begins to falter. Peter's teammates are unsure what to do, but he remains determined to block Sukang's attacks. Paul assesses the opposing team as average and suggests they all attack together, shattering their formation in one wave. Kate steps forward, leading with a fire magic arrow aimed at Rongyang. Peter successfully blocks it and claims that's all Sukang has. But Mandy destroys their barrier with a single, air-breaking fist. Evelyn follows up with a demonic blade slash, sealing their fate. The battle ends. Sukang University emerges victorious, leaving Rongyang's team utterly defeated. The next team battle will begin soon. Kate comments that the win was almost too easy. Aurora sighs, wishing for a challenge. Mandy adds that she barely had to move. It's clear that only Modu and Qingjing universities might offer Su Kang a real fight. Mr. Chen is impressed. He asks Mr. Herbert how he trained such exceptional students, especially praising Paul's powerful buffs. Mr. Herbert laughs heartily, claiming he didn't do much beyond offering a few pointers. He insists that their achievements are the result of their own hard work. Mr. Chen can't help but feel that Herbert is bragging. The mechanist excuses himself, saying he needs to strategize against Su Kong's team for their upcoming match. Mr. Herbert congratulates the team, praising their excellent performance and encouraging them to aim even higher. Since there are no matches in the afternoon, he announces free time for everyone. Grace suggests they spend this time watching a few high-level team matches to gain valuable experience. Anyone interested in the individual competitions needs to register with Mr. Herbert immediately. Paul reminds the group that they are entered by default, so he asks why registration is necessary. Grace explains that teams with priests, who have no offensive abilities, often choose not to participate in individual matches. Some defensive classes also opt out to avoid unnecessary hassle. Paul's team is excited to participate in the individual battles, eager to prove their strength. Mr. Herbert is pleased and promises to register all their names. After all, Su Kang University doesn't have any weaklings. The next day, the individual matches begin. The elimination format ensures that only the victors move forward. Evelyn's opponent is a warrior, but her match is the 27th, so she has a long wait. Aurora's situation is even worse. Her match, the 45th, feels like an eternity away. Paul, however, is lucky. He's in the 6th match, facing off against a swordsman. The crowd is eager to see our hero's true strength, as they feel he didn't do much in the previous battle. Some doubt whether a support class like Saint Knight can shine in individual combat. The 9th individual match begins. Paul versus Jeffrey Michelson, a level 18 swordsman from Liuqiang University. Jeffrey underestimates Paul, assuming a support class will be an easy opponent. Opinions in the crowd are divided. Some believe in Paul, while others think Jeffrey will dominate him. The battle starts, and Jeffrey arrogantly offers Paul a chance to surrender with dignity. Paul laughs it off, challenging Jeffrey to last even 10 breaths against him. Furious, Jeffrey charges, determined to teach Paul a lesson. But Paul moves much faster, outmaneuvering Jeffrey with ease. Jeffrey barely has time to react before Paul lands a devastating blow, sending him flying across the arena. The crowd is stunned. Liuqiang University's captain, a level 18 swordsman, is defeated so thoroughly. Liuqiang's teacher criticizes Jeffrey for underestimating Paul. Despite being a support class, Paul's combat prowess is exceptional. With Jeffrey unable to continue, Paul is declared the winner of the match. Our hero chuckles, remarking that Jeffrey was so weak he couldn't even handle a single punch from his grade C skill. The crowd is buzzing, wondering if this is even Paul's full strength. It seems unbelievable that a support class could dominate so easily. A Qingjing University lecturer in the audience reflects on the time she visited the 2nd Academy to recruit students. Paul's improvement since then is astonishing. Mr. Chen laughs, recalling how Paul almost became a Qingjing student. The lecturer apologizes, admitting she should have fought harder to recruit him. Emily, a level 19 archer, is amazed by Paul's versatility. She never expected him to excel in support, close combat, and magic. Ashley, a level 18 priest, notices something strange. The speed at which Paul cast his ice skill doesn't seem normal. Even the ice mages in her family can't achieve such speed. Ashley feels a faint reaction from her family's treasure. She suspects Paul might have awakened a frost bloodline. Emily asks if something is wrong, but Ashley waves it off and abruptly leaves, claiming she has urgent business to attend to. Ashley contacts her father using the company's internal hotline. He's surprised she has time to call during her competition. She reveals that she's found someone with a frost bloodline and his family name is White. Even more surprising, his bloodline purity exceeds 70%. Her father is stunned and asks if she's sure, noting that such high frost bloodline purity is extremely rare. Ashley estimates an 80% likelihood and says she needs to get closer to confirm. Her father promises to investigate Paul's background to see if he's connected to their White family. He thinks to himself that if this is true, their family's future might be secured. Paul's next opponent is Oliver from Madu University. Confident in his strength, Oliver claims he's only worried Paul won't push him to go all out. Oliver's teacher warns him to stay cautious, admitting even he felt a sense of danger from Paul. The match begins, and Oliver's powerful aura immediately grabs everyone's attention. Oliver's teammates praise his level 18 Tempest armor set, saying Paul might not even land a hit on him. The crowd erupts in cheers. Ashley's father arrives at the stadium, and she remarks that this place rivals their family estate in size. Her sister Mia joins them. Ashley asks why they've come. Her father explains that their investigation suggests Paul might be from a branch of the White family that split off during the Dark Ages. The family head ordered Robert, Ashley's father, to personally verify Paul's connection after hearing about the Frost bloodline awakening. Robert also brought Mia along to witness the strength of Sukang University's freshmen. Mia scoffs, claiming there's nothing to learn from a Saint Knight. Ashley disagrees, saying there's nothing wrong with Saint Knights. If Paul's bloodline purity truly exceeds 70%, he's eligible to awaken their family's hidden class. Mia doubts the claim, pointing out that even the youngest members of their main family branch only have 40% purity. Robert, annoyed, reminds Mia to show some respect to her elder brother if Paul turns out to be family. She concedes, but says Paul's strength will determine if he's worthy of the title. Ashley reassures them that their father will test Paul's bloodline purity soon enough. For now, she urges everyone to focus on his match. The first match of the third round is Paul versus Oliver. The guy initially plans to fight conservatively and finish Paul quickly, but he's forced to go all out. Sensing Paul's strength, it's clear that Modu University's captain isn't someone to be underestimated. However, Oliver is only level 18, 5 levels below Paul. If Paul uses Punishment of Light, the fight will be over in an instant. But with tomorrow's match against Qingjing University, Paul can't afford to reveal his full power yet. Sticking to close combat feels like a frustrating handicap. The countdown begins and the match starts. Paul immediately activates the Blessing of Protection. Oliver mocks him, claiming it's all for show. Oliver attempts a low kick, but Paul counters with a swift punch to the face. It becomes clear that the guy's equipment isn't offering much protection. After just a few exchanges, Oliver collapses. The crowd is stunned. It's unheard of for a fighter to be taken down by a support class. Oliver's grade A talent, Steel Bones, was supposed to give him exceptional defense, but it seems useless against Paul. Dazed, Oliver wonders if Paul comes from a martial artist family. He can't believe the sheer power of Paul's combat skills. Paul shrugs off the praise, claiming he's just slightly stronger. He then unleashes a barrage of holy punches. Oliver is unable to withstand the relentless assault. Realizing he's completely outmatched, Oliver begs for mercy and surrenders. But Paul, caught in the heat of battle, lands one final punch before stopping. The referee declares our hero is the winner, congratulating him on advancing to the fourth round. Paul sighs, frustrated at how hard it is to hide his true strength. Once he got into the rhythm of the fight, he couldn't hold back. The audience is buzzing with disbelief. No one expected a Saint Knight to demonstrate such incredible close combat skills. Paul uses a holy light spell to heal Oliver, apologizing for the final punch, explaining the surrender came too late. He stabilizes Oliver's condition with healing magic, leaving the rest to the medics. Oliver's injuries are severe enough to shock even the nurses. They estimate it will take days to fully heal. No one anticipated Paul, a Saint Knight, could inflict such devastating damage. As Ashley mentions, Paul is incredibly strong, far surpassing all the young geniuses within White's clan of his age. Robert notes that Paul sent an opponent in heavy armor flying with just one punch. That's monstrous strength. It seems White's family bloodline hides a special class that emphasizes raw strength. Mia's annoyed but can't deny that Paul's power is overwhelming. Robert decides to ask Ashley to arrange a meeting with Paul. Meanwhile, Evelyn's battle against a contestant from Modu University reaches its climax. Victory is within her grasp as the opponent's strength is clearly lacking. The girl from Modu is shocked by how strong the Sukang contestants are this year. She feels like she's at her limit and isn't sure how much longer she can hold out. Evelyn, wanting to wrap this up quickly, prepares her next move. With a swift shadow slash, she ends the fight decisively. The Modu contestant can't continue, and Evelyn advances to the fourth round of the singles competition. The spectators are surprised. They didn't expect Sukang University to have someone as strong as Evelyn in addition to Paul. They wonder if tomorrow's team match against Qingjing University will even be competitive. Paul praises Evelyn's performance, especially her last move. but she brushes it off, saying her opponent was too weak. She jokes that if she had to face Paul, she'd surrender immediately. Paul, laughing, insists he'd never even think of hitting her. Suddenly, Ashley steps in and introduces herself. She explains that since Paul awakened the ice bloodline with such high purity, he must be part of the White family. Evelyn is familiar with the White family. Her own family and theirs are both ancient lineages, equally old and influential in Qianlin province. However, Evelyn has heard that fewer and fewer White family members have been awakening the ice bloodline in recent years. Considering their current desperation, Paul's awakening might earn him a significant amount of cultivation resources. Paul isn't interested, though, and asks Ashley for proof that he's part of the White family. Ashley reveals that her father brought a bloodline identification stone. If Paul belongs to their family, the stone will resonate with him. The hero agrees to try, and the test reveals his ice bloodline purity to be over 90%. He feels an undeniable sense of connection to Ashley through their shared bloodline. He never expected this tournament to lead him to the source of his ice bloodline. Ashley says her father would like to meet Paul, and he agrees. Paul tells Evelyn to head back without him, assuring her there's no need to worry. Evelyn replies confidently, saying the White family's influence pales in comparison to hers. Paul follows Ashley to her dorm where her father and sister are waiting. Memories of Cindy's illness resurface for Paul. At their lowest point, the White family hadn't offered any help. Now that he's awakened his bloodline, they're suddenly very interested. Anyway, Robert walks out of the room to meet Paul, shaking his hand and noting how extraordinary he is in person. He's impressed by Paul's high-purity ice bloodline. Robert explains that Paul's father and he share a common great-grandfather, making Paul and Ashley distant cousins. He expresses regret over Paul's father passing away so early. Moving to business, Robert says that if Paul returns to the main branch of the White family and specializes in their hidden ice bloodline class, they'll provide everything he needs to grow. Paul raises a concern. He's already become a paladin. Can he even respecialize? Robert assures him they've prepared a top-tier specialization item. With his bloodline, Paul would unlock the hidden class's true potential. Our hero, however, knows that his strength comes from the professional auxiliary system tied deeply to his paladin class. Through the guidance of Holy Light, he's reached his current level. He asks if refusing to respecialize would mean no support from the White family. Robert reluctantly confirms, but he starts listing the treasures Paul would gain by joining. Though the offer sounds tempting, our hero declines. The White family's hidden class means little to him now. Robert, worried, tries harder to persuade him, painting a vivid picture of the power Paul could achieve, even surpassing level 50 in the future. But Paul remains firm. He's satisfied with the resources he can obtain from Sukang University and prefers his current paladin path. Frustrated, Robert calls paladins heavily armored support classes and insists they lack the offensive power of the White family's damage dealer classes. Paul smirks. If they think a paladin is just a support class, they're in for a surprise. Tomorrow's match against Qingjing University will be the perfect stage to prove them wrong. Paul bids Ashley farewell, promising they'll meet on the field tomorrow. Ashley, stunned, asks her father why he didn't try harder to convince Paul. Robert says Paul still hasn't realized the limitations of a paladin. Robert sighs, saying our hero will come around once he sees the strength of Qingjing's damage dealers in action. Mia, however, interrupts with an objection. She argues that they're pampering Paul too much. Is it really worth all this effort to convince him to join the White family's main branch? Ashley and Robert are caught off guard, but Robert explains the White family's history. The ancestor of their White family was the first professional on the Blue Planet to awaken the Ice bloodline. Under his leadership, the White family rose to power. Generation after generation, there have been members of the family who have awakened this bloodline. There were even several three-turn experts. All of this changed with the arrival of the Dark Ages. A large number of demons invaded, and the family's ancestor immediately led the experts to fight them. However, their ancestor went missing during a battle deep within the other world. Although 5 of the three-turn elders were resurrected, though magic, they were still affected by the perpetual curse of the demon sovereign. Since then, the Ice bloodline has almost disappeared from their lineage. Moreover, this perpetual curse is extremely overbearing. It's passed down through the bloodline and cannot be removed or purified. Paul's high-purity bloodline is a rare hope for their family's revival. Robert believes that once Paul sees Qingjing University's strength, he'll understand the White family is his best chance to grow stronger. Mia challenges him, asking what happens if Paul wins. Ashley, frustrated, argues that Mia shouldn't support Paul, especially when her own sister is competing tomorrow. The next day, the arena is packed. The much-anticipated team competition between Sukang and Qingjing universities begins. The crowd is abuzz, comparing the excitement of this match to that of a final. They wonder if Paul can maintain his winning streak against Qingjing University. Mia, despite acknowledging her sister's team's strengths, finds it hard to imagine Paul losing. The host introduces both teams with flair, hyping up the most anticipated battle of the round. Paul steps forward, wielding his light warhammer. The spectators murmur. It's rare to see a Saint Knight with a weapon. While it's not unusual for a paladin, his presence is unsettling. Even from a distance, his aura feels dangerous. Mia is taken aback by how much stronger Paul seems compared to before. Robert, equally puzzled, realizes Paul wasn't showing his full strength before. Qingjing's warrior Mateo notices Paul's positioning at the front and speculates that he's taking the role of a damage dealer. Emily, another Qingjing contestant, agrees, citing Paul's performance in the solo matches as proof of his offensive potential. The team's mage, Christopher, dismisses the idea, arguing that Paul's higher level doesn't guarantee damage-dealing capabilities. Mateo orders his team to stay alert and fight at full strength, emphasizing that Su Kang is a serious contender. He reminds them of last year's loss to Su Kang, which cost Qingjing first place. This time, they won't hold back, even if it means injuring their opponents. Mr. Chen expresses concern over Paul juggling both support and damage roles, wondering if he might be spreading himself too thin. Mr. Herbert, however, is confident in Paul's abilities, arguing that strength is all that matters in this competition. Chen remains skeptical, noting that most freshmen lack the skill points to master multiple roles. He suspects Herbert might be hiding a trump card. As the match begins, Paul tells his team to stick to their training. He'll lead the attack while they adapt and follow his lead. Mandy teases that they can relax now that Paul's going all out. Even against Qingjing, victory seems inevitable. Paul warns them not to underestimate their opponents, reminding them that Qingjing was last year's runner-up. If anyone gets injured, they should fall back for his healing support. With the countdown over, Paul charges forward, activating all his buffs. He doesn't hesitate, initiating the assault head-on. The crowd is surprised by his boldness, questioning why he didn't start with long-range attacks to gauge Qingjing's strength. Paul's confidence is palpable. Mateo grins, instructing his team to prepare their strongest long-range attacks, specifically targeting Paul. Emily fires her Grade A skill, Arrows of Suffocation, which locks down all possible escape routes. Mateo is certain Paul has no way to block it, yet Paul crushes the arrows barehanded. Emily is stunned. Her skill enhanced to level 8 was supposed to be unstoppable. Mateo scoffs, claiming Paul's defensive capabilities are impressive for a Saint Knight. But this is where his luck ends. The guy believes that once Christopher finishes his casting, Paul will have no chances to block this. So Christopher begins casting his most powerful spell, Fire Phoenix with Flame Breath, confident it will take Paul down. To everyone's shock, Paul doesn't dodge or retreat. Christopher is sure this move will end him. The Fire Phoenix, a Grade A+ skill, ignites the battlefield. The spectators are certain Paul can't withstand such a devastating attack. Qingjing's recruiter comments that Paul should retreat to his team's defensive formation while he still has the chance. Grace Bennett, from Su Kang's side, chuckles at the suggestion, causing the recruiter to snap, insisting Paul will lose. Grace, smiling, advises her to watch closely and see what happens. Suddenly, a massive wave of fire erupts, but it's not from Qingjing. Paul activates his Holy Flame Light Shell, a skill that amplifies his ability to manipulate flame elements and boosts his power further. The crowd gasps as Paul absorbs the Fire Phoenix. Christopher, dumbfounded, watches as his ultimate move strengthens Paul instead of harming him. Aurora, one of Paul's teammates, remarks that Qingjing clearly underestimated their Saint Knight captain. Even Christopher, with his Flame Dragon bloodline, can't touch Paul. Our hero, calm and collected, apologizes to Christopher for the disappointment, explaining that his Holy Flamelight Wheel allows him to manipulate fire elements as well. The audience is stunned. They recognize Paul's skill as a divine blessed ability, a rarity even among tertiary awakenings. Grace explains that Paul must have been personally blessed by the God of Light to receive such a skill, leaving Qing Jing's recruiter in disbelief. The recruiter, unwilling to admit defeat, insists that Qing Jing still has aces up their sleeves. Grace casually responds that Sukong does too, but it'll come down to who has the power to back their words. Mia, watching from the stands, asks her father about divine blessed skills. Robert explains they are unique abilities granted directly by the gods, impossible to learn or inherit through conventional means. Only classes blessed by the gods can receive it. It's evident that Paul's skill was bestowed upon him by the God of Light personally. The White family, known for its Frost bloodline, once had numerous devout followers of the Frost goddess. However, when their bloodline was cursed, the goddess's blessings vanished as well. Robert explains that classes blessed by the gods hold immeasurable potential. To Paul, all of the White family's offerings seem insignificant. Disappointed, Mia remarks that their trip has been a waste, but Robert believes otherwise. He insists that once the competition concludes, he'll speak with Paul again. A man like Paul won't give up easily. Back on the battlefield, Christopher is in disbelief. He cannot comprehend how Paul managed to absorb the power of his fire phoenix. Matteo, though puzzled by Paul's abilities, now understands that fire magic is futile. He urges Christopher to switch to other elemental magics. At the same time, he orders Emily to persist with her long-range attacks to disrupt Paul's momentum and prevent him from closing the distance. The entire team shifts focus, unleashing a barrage of attacks to halt Paul's advance. Their strategy isn't bad, but they're underestimating him. Paul counters with his Holy Light shield, effectively nullifying their offensive. Emily and Ashley note its remarkable defense, though it appears to have slowed his charge. The disruption forces Paul to adjust his tactics. He considers switching to long-range spells to dismantle the opposing team's formation. Sensing the danger, Matteo orders his team to retreat, but it's too late. Paul unleashes Holy Flame Storm, its immense power threatening to eliminate anyone caught in its path. Christopher, caught within the fiery tempest, realizes that Paul's mastery of elemental magic surpasses even his own as a mage. Calmly, Paul remarks that the fire isn't quite hot enough. He assures his opponents they have nothing to fear. He already absorbed their fire phoenix. With a commanding gesture, our hero orders the flames to engulf everything. Christopher struggles within the inferno, barely managing to stand. Seeing his adversary still standing, Paul smirks and warns that Christopher won't be so fortunate next time. Furious at his arrogance, Matteo instructs Ashley to heal Christopher while he takes on Paul himself. Our hero, brimming with excitement, retaliates with a devastating light slash. Matteo attempts to block, but his shield shatters instantly. Matteo begrudgingly admits Paul's terrifying strength. No wonder even his steel-boned teammate couldn't withstand Paul's punches. Determined, Matteo declares he's no weakling and counters with his rage slash. Yet Paul effortlessly blocks the attack, laughing at the attempt. Matteo is astounded. His rage slash, capable of killing level 20 golden grade monsters in one strike, was nullified so easily. Refusing to give up, Matteo charges at Paul again with reckless determination. Our hero, unfazed, draws his warhammer and counters Matteo's assault. As expected of Qing Jing's captain, Matteo is the first opponent of Paul's age to match him in raw strength. However, Matteo quickly realizes that Paul's strength stats are far superior. If this continues, he'll exhaust his stamina. Paul taunts Matteo, claiming that if he can't hold his weapon properly and tires so quickly, he might as well surrender. Matteo braces for the next strike, knowing he can't dodge. Just as the decisive blow descends, it's intercepted by a massive, invisible robot rushing toward Paul. Reacting instantly, our hero activates his Holy Light protection and obliterates the metallic assailant. Despite its destruction, the robot proves formidable. Its attack had shattered Paul's level 9 Holy Light protection with a single strike. Matteo expresses his gratitude to Bill, their mechanist, for the timely rescue. Bill, undeterred, states that losing is not an option and vows to deal with Paul himself. Bill reveals he had been holding back, intending to face a strong contender from Madu University. However, Paul's overwhelming power has forced his hand. A swarm of robots appears. Our hero is confused. Bill's only level 19, but these robots are levels 21 and 22. Mr. Herbert remarks that Qingjing University seems to have some hidden aces up its sleeve. Mr. Chen explains that Bill has the S+ grade talent Mechanical Heart, which lets him create machines stronger than his own level. Mr. Herbert is intrigued, noting that the match's outcome now depends on these two. Paul is ready to test Bill's swarm tactics head-on. The guy scoffs, calling it foolish for our hero to charge straight at an army of robots. Rockets fly toward Paul, but he deflects them with his twin shields and sends them back, triggering an explosion. Then Paul soars into the air, activating the Holy Light Cross. The light destroys a large portion of Bill's robots. The guy's enraged. He used fireproof materials, but his robots still can't handle it. Despite the loss, Bill isn't fazed. He has plenty of robots left and doesn't think Paul's mana will last. Another wave charges in. Meanwhile, Mandy and Evelyn assist their captain from the sidelines, pointing out that Bill has no idea Paul specializes in fighting swarms. Perfect timing. Our hero begins activating Holy Storm. Bill recognizes the terrifying skill and orders a retreat, but it's too late. In seconds, Bill loses connection to 74 of his robots. The fight's just begun, and Bill has already lost a third of his army. His swarm tactics aren't working. It's time for his ultimate trump card, HX Judgment, a massive, powerful robot. The giant robot starts absorbing the remaining robots into itself. Bill orders a combination, and for the first time ever, a legendary-grade robot appears in the national freshman competition. Mateo laughs, declaring Bill's judgment flawless and Su Kang's defeat inevitable. Evelyn snaps back, refusing to believe Paul would lose. Bill unleashes a barrage of missiles from within the giant robot, covering the area in fire. Paul knows he can't tank this. He's looking for an opening. Luckily, he dodges a rocket just in time, but it's close. Too close. Bill becomes unhinged. He's convinced Paul has nowhere to run and is ready to finish him off. The robot draws a massive sword, slashing the ground, but Paul disappears. Bill mocks him, accusing Su Kang of being full of cowards. Paul, visibly irritated, steps up for a direct confrontation. Bill smirks, thinking Paul has taken the bait. He assumes our hero is weak and mocks Su Kang's poor leadership. With a powerful blow, Bill's robot knocks the hammer out of Paul's hands. But Bill is about to face his worst nightmare. The Qingjing audience is stunned. The energy from the shield is being drained, triggering an emergency backup. Each match-monitoring drone has a powerful light magic stone. They'll need to use it to repair the shield. Evelyn struggles against Mateo and urgently calls for a retreat. Emily's arrows chase Mandy and Aurora, but under Evelyn's orders, they fall back. Christopher wants to pursue, but Mateo stops him, sensing something's wrong. This power isn't normal. It's their worst fear, Paul's ultimate skill, God's hand. Bill freezes, realizing it's a divine skill. The oppressive aura could only come from an S-class ability. Though HX Judgment is only one tier below, the gap between it and God's hand feels insurmountable. Bill shakes off his fear, refusing to back down. He activates HX Judgment's extreme mode. The robot launches a rapid series of slashes, managing to hold back God's hand, or so Bill believes. His confidence crumbles in seconds as the tide turns. God's hand forces the giant robot into the ground, utterly destroying it. The battlefield is left with a massive handprint in the dirt, and Bill lies unconscious in the center. Seeing Bill's condition, his team knows they've lost. The crowd erupts in excitement, marveling at Paul's incredible power. Some compare it to a nuclear explosion. Paul and his team leave the field as undisputed champions. Mr. Chen is shocked by the divine skill. He admits Qingjing fought hard and thought the championship was theirs with Bill on the team. He never expected someone like Paul to emerge, a powerhouse in close combat, support, and magic. He's nearly an all-rounder. Mr. Chen walks off, telling Mr. Herbert that Su Kang found an exceptional talent. In his 30 years of teaching, Mr. Chen admits Paul is the brightest genius he's ever seen. Mr. Herbert silently celebrates the victory. The crowd chants Paul's name, singing his praises. Mandy shrugs, saying Qingjing was no match. Aurora disagrees, pointing out they'd never have won without Paul. Mandy smirks, saying they do have Paul now. Evelyn notes that the stadium was expanded last year, and now 200,000 people are watching this competition. With live broadcasts, she predicts the entire nation will be chanting Paul's name soon. Paul tells her to calm down. A mysterious woman observes from afar, noting Paul's genius. She thinks he'd be a perfect fit for the Tian Yu Guild, but she says his level is a little too low, so he'll have to wait his secondary awakening to be invited into their guild. As one of the top guilds in the nation, even their logistics supporters need to be level 30 secondary awakened. But the woman's assistant says that after this battle, Paul's combat data will be handed over to various guilds, so it can be too late to extend their invitation by then. The woman disagrees. She says that with the old guildmaster here, even if they can't take Paul in now, her junior brother will sooner or later belong to Tian Yu. After the fight, doctors try to somehow heal Bill. Mr. Chen tells them to not stop the recovery spell before their personal mana almost runs out. Doctors can't understand how this holy light so vicious that even cleansing spells can't remove it. Paul is too heavy-handed. Mateo enters, saying that if it weren't for the arena's protective shield magic, they're not sure if Brother Bill would still be alive, and they wouldn't have gotten away unharmed either. Mateo apologizes to Mr. Chen for their loss, saying they put all the resources the schools gave them to waste. Mr. Chen says it's not their fault. Paul is just too strong. Looks like Qingjing University will have to settle for the third place in the team match this time. Mateo's team can't understand, saying they can still defeat Modu. Mr. Chen says that Bill's heavily wounded. All 200 robots were destroyed in one match just now. So Qingjing no longer has team members who can fight with Modu. Bill's offended and furious. He agrees that Paul's strong, but once he completes his secondary awakening, his mechanical heart will truly shine as an S+ grade talent. Then he'll fight Paul again to obtain victory. Robert apologizes for misjudging Paul. He admits that Saint Knight can indeed be a powerful support and damage dealer at the same time. He says our hero is a one-of-a-kind genius. Paul asks Mr. White to stop it with the pleasantries and get to the point. Robert notes that people with power are indeed fast. He has reported back to the family head and elders have both promised that if Paul returns, they will cultivate him with the power of the entire family. There are many people within the White family. When it comes to distributing resources every year, it all depends on their own abilities. There are various factions within the family, and the largest is formed by the elders and the family head. Under normal circumstances, both sides will never work together, but they have reached an agreement on Paul's matter. Our hero thinks it's not bad. With the family's powerful figures promising support, he won't have to deal with annoying side matters when he returns to the main White family line. But his master is the Headmaster Hawkins. Paul can still level up rapidly without the White's family help. The most important thing is that he still has the system. So Paul's afraid to disappoint the family, but he doesn't plan to change his class. Robert is in despair. However, Paul says he knows someone with the Frost bloodline and she'll maybe consider the White's family hidden class. Robert says the White family's 3 secret classes require not just the Frost bloodline, but also a specific purity level. A regular Frost bloodline isn't enough to access the class. Paul tells that his sister's bloodline purity is 3 times higher than Robert's and asks if that's enough. The man's eyes shine once he hears that our hero's sister awakened the Frost bloodline too. He's so happy that he can finally see the White family rise and he didn't bring shame to his ancestors. Robert asks if that's true, since that's almost 10 points of bloodline purity. Cindy can pick either of the 3 hidden Frost classes. This man's insane. Paul tells him to not be so excited yet. He needs to ask for Sister's opinion if she wants to accept the White's family class cultivation line. For our hero, there's not much he can get from entering the family, but Cindy's different. While Paul can provide her resources, it won't be enough compared to a family's full focus. The hero decides to call her. First thing she says is that Brothers Fight's amazing and it's a complete one-sided stomp. So many girls in her school want Paul's contact info, but Cindy's not giving them since the sister-in-law in her dreams must be strong, have wide shoulders, strong arms, tight skin, legs filled with muscle. She also must be able to carry a sword weighing several hundred kilos. Paul tells her to stop. He's got serious business to discuss with Cindy. He tells that a while ago someone got in contact with him, saying they're from the White family. There are 3 hidden classes in the family, which are the Frost Archer, Frost Swordsman, and Ice Mage. The Swordsman and Archer are physical damage dealers, while the Ice Mage is a magic-based class. Based on Cindy's bloodline purity, she can choose any of them. The girl says she'll choose the Ice Mage class. Ice elemental attacks suit her perfectly. Paul says that once she accepts the White family's class planning, She'll need to spend at least 3 or 4 years studying in their territory, so she needs to consider this carefully. Cindy agrees. Her bro is strong and she can't stay behind as his sister. Also, she realizes that if she can get resources from the White family, she wouldn't need to spend Paul's resources and become a burden. Our hero nods, saying he'll go to Tianlan district with sister once he's done here.